Chapter 404. Murong Huang? Who was this? Wasn't it someone who called himself Xiao Luo just now? Suemo felt as though he was no longer in control of himself. He had really become a soul residing in someone else's body. Whoosh! The scene in front of Sumo changed once again. In the empty room, Sumo felt that he was sitting on a high chair. There was no one in the room. The Tianwang sect has endured for nearly 10,000 years, and the Murong dynasty has been established for 4,000 years. But everything must have a beginning. Sumo felt that Murong Huang's voice was slightly trembling and even a little excited. "Young master, please give me your orders." In the empty room, there was only a reply, but no one else was in sight. Tai Wang, demon lover, demon coffin, angel, Murong Huang muttered to himself. Sumo felt that he was leaning back on the chair, exhausted. Sumo could empathize with that kind of exhaustion. Tai Huang, demon lover, demon coffin, angel. It was Sumo's first time hearing these words. But he felt that they were both unfamiliar and familiar. Those words were like pebbles that were thrown into his sea of consciousness, causing waves of ripples in his sea of consciousness. Cough, 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 cough. Murong Huang coughed. Sumo had heard that sound before, because Xiao Luo's coughing was exactly the same. Whoosh! The room in front of Sumo disappeared. It was a garden filled with the fragrance of peach blossoms. Sumo felt that he was sitting cross-legged under a peach blossom tree. He wore a black robe with golden edges, and half of it was scattered on the grass. "Your Highness, the Empire's 3 million cavalry has been assembled. Your Highness, please give your orders," someone in the garden asked. But Sumo still could not see anyone. "Pass down my orders. 3 million cavalry will pass through the domain gate in 3 days. Split into 7 groups and head straight for the Eastern Ridge. Those who do not surrender to the Murong dynasty in the Eastern Ridge will be killed." Murong Huang's voice was cold. "Yes. Pass down my orders to Pujuan. 3 days later, assemble the troops and wait for orders at Blackwater." Murong Huang issued a series of orders, but unfortunately, Sumo could not understand them. "Young master's wisdom is as vast as the sea. I admit my inferiority." The one-armed middle-aged scholar appeared again. "Zio immortal token." The 5 regions moved. Everyone pointed their swords at Dongling, but young master wants to attack Blackwater. An ingenious scheme. What a brilliant plan. I merely borrowed the power left behind by the Mr. back then to set up a trap. The Murong dynasty's armored cavalry can sweep through the desolate sea, but that is in the mortal world. The Battle of East Ridge was a battle between cultivators. What's the use of ordinary weapons? The middle-aged scholar asked. Because Buddhism is merciful. Immortals do not kill mortals. In the eyes of a Buddha, he doesn't care about friend or foe. He only cares about the common people. How stupid is that? Murong Huang smiled strangely. "But I'm a devil, and I want to succeed on the bones of 10,000 people. I am a devil. I want to achieve success on the bones of 10,000 people." Sumo heard Murong Huang's words loud and clear. However, it was like a dagger stabbing into Sumo's immortal heart. That kind of pain was indescribable. "I'm a demon? Am I really a demon?" Sumo's head hurt so much that he wanted to groan. But like a nightmare, there was no sound. Cough, 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 cough. Suddenly, Murong Huang's body bent over, and he could not stop coughing. Murong Huang covered his mouth with his hand, and Sumo saw a black bloodstain on his hand. Then, the bloodstain began to expand infinitely. Finally, it became a hazy purple bloodlight. "Mr. Y?" The scenery changed again, and Sumo felt like he was holding a 5-colored light. "You would rather suffer the eternal calamity than seek freedom from the saints. Mister, what exactly do you want?" Sumo felt like he was crying. The pain in his heart spread out uncontrollably. "Eternal Tai Wang, immortal star monarch." Sumo felt like he was standing on top of a mountain. There was nothing around him, but there were tens of thousands of people shouting. Boom, boom, boom. War horses neighed, and military cannons roared. "You will pay the price for Tai Wang, and you will accompany Mister in death." That was not what Sumo wanted to say, but he felt that he had said it, and it was filled with dense, killing intent. Sumo seemed to feel his empty eyes. Mr. is dead. Kill. Kill. Endless killing. Sumo was killing, but he did not know who he was killing. However, he could feel the stench of blood, and the killing intent was soaring. Sumo felt very oppressed. His dantian and sea of consciousness were in extreme pain. His soul was trembling. A girl in a black dress floated in midair. She had a pair of gray eyes, and she controlled a strange flying blade. She could actually transform into a crow. She was called Crow. Another peerless man, dressed in snow-white robes, and had a lotus-like temperament. His starry eyes were like water, and his smile was like the spring breeze. A faint green halo emitted from the man's body, untainted by a speck of dust, and had a heavenly charm. His name was Li Shui. Those people all appeared in Sumo's memory. A woman with a sinister ghost face. Her purple robes fluttered in the wind. Her snow-white hair danced in the wind. Sumo had seen that female cultivator before. However, her hair was completely white. Her name was Shun Yen, an old man with snow-white eyebrows and a black robe like ink. He was tall, standing in the void, majestic, and full of killing intent. He was the emperor of Taiwan, Shao Heavenly Court. These people appeared one by one, and then began to kill each other. The fog was thick, and Sumo was in trance. He could vaguely see many monks, but he couldn't see their faces at all. Boom, boom. Sumo did not know what kind of battle it was. Was he in the middle of it? He felt like he was watching a play, but he was in the middle of it. The purple-robed female cultivator had fallen. The male cultivator that he had seen twice appeared. This time, he was not dressed in black, nor was he dressed in white, but in a green robe. A black-robed Buddha figure floated above his head, and an undying ancient lamp burned in front of him. At the same time, a black coffin stretched across the sky. The moment he saw that coffin, Sumo's soul trembled violently. It was an uncontrollable feeling. He wanted to shout, and there seemed to be an inexplicable power in his body. His sea of consciousness was surging with monstrous waves. Boom! Boom! The heart of the Buddha and the demon never fall into depravity, and only I am supreme. The green-robed cultivator said sternly. The seal was like a star, blurred and indistinct. Sumo did not know what technique it was. Shinyin, you are my moment and eternity. The green-robed cultivator said in a deep voice. At that moment, Sumo felt his body quickly escaping. Otherwise, he would die. Between the mountains, one step was 1,000 miles. The body that Sumo was residing in was rapidly retreating from the battle area. The 100,000 mountains, the endless eastern ridge. Sumo could not control everything by himself. He was like duckweed, drifting with the current. However, at this time, he saw a woman coming toward him. It was a beautiful woman in a blue dress, with a graceful figure and curves. Sumo was stunned. She seemed to have seen this woman somewhere before. Dongfang Jia? Wasn't that the 9th princess of the Dongfang clan? Although there were some differences in appearance, Sumo could conclude that it was the same woman. The same aura, the same eyes. Huff! However, Sumo felt that she had reached out and casually struck with her sword. Blood splattered as the sword pierced her heart. The blue-robed female cultivator did not even have a chance to react. Her eyes were filled with astonishment, fear, and unwillingness. She wanted to see the person she loved. She did not even know why she was killed. However, Sumo understood, because she was blocking Xiao Luo's way. Whoosh! Dongfang Jio's blood instantly spread, covering the entire sky in an instant. Dongfang won. At that moment, Sumo's sea of consciousness finally set off an uncontrollable wave. Countless memory fragments shone like stars in his mind. The black fragments were as bright as the sun. Wah! Inside the Qiangui Inn, Sumo stood alone inside the boundary and suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. However, his eyes instantly became clear. Just now it was a dream. I am Xiao Luo. I am Moro. A threatening cold light flashed in Sumo's eyes. Chapter 405. Qianguiyin. Sumo gently wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with the sleeve of his robe. His brows were tightly furrowed, and there was an indescribable hostility in his eyes. At that moment, Sumo's Dansi had yet to completely calm down. The black fragment on the Nine Dragons deity platform gave off a faint glow. The skeleton immortal root seemed to be covered in a layer of black and white mist. The immortal root no longer looked like a skeleton, but more like a person sitting cross-legged. However, the person's eyes were slightly closed, as if they were open. The hostility in Sumo's eyes gradually faded. I am Xiao Luo, and I am also Murong Huang. Many memories appeared in Sumo's mind. They were all of Xiao Luo and Murong Huang's memories, but they all stopped at the moment when Xiao Luo killed Dongfang Huan. Sumo did not know what happened after that. Tai Huang's successor, Prince Murong, a fiendish cultivator, 10 reincarnations, the bloody battle at Brahma Temple, all of these memories lit up like stars, surging in like a tide. 3 realms, desolate sea, that's my past life. No, or rather, I don't know how many past lives it was. For a moment, Sumo could not accept everything. However, many memories came rolling in. The Taiwan legacy, the Great War, the bloody battle at East Ridge. Many past events gradually became clear. Fairy Huanhua, the fiendish cultivator AMU, the Ghost Lord's successor, the Demon Crow. Sumo remembered all of them. Mr. One. Sumo lowered her head and could not help but feel sorrowful. All of Muron's memories were abnormally clear in Sumo's mind. A teacher and a friend. When Muron's position in Xiao Luo's heart was definitely higher than anyone else's. Wu, plum blossom spirit? Sumo's heart skipped a beat. In Xiao Luo's memory, there was not much about Wu-er. In fact, Sumo felt that in Xiao Luo's heart, Wu-er was just a companion of the Tai Huang bloodline. However, Sumo thought of Mu Jinghong. Plum Blossom? Mu Jinghong. Especially the azure-robed Mu Jinghong he had seen in the soul storage altar cave abode. There were plum blossoms on his glabella. It was clearly a person. At the same time, Sumo thought of the painting in Mu Jinghong's abode on 5 wheels. Wasn't the absolutely beautiful man under the old plum tree in the painting Xiao Luo? Or rather, wasn't that him? He was waiting for the mortal world, waiting for reincarnation. Sumo recalled their previous conversation. She seemed to be waiting for herself. What was going on? How ridiculous. Sumo's mind was still in a mess. Xiao Luo's and Murong Huang's memories came flooding in and intertwined with each other. At that moment, Sumo really didn't know who she was. At the same time, many of his knowledge and techniques regarding the 3 realms were also awakened in his memories. The 3 realms were divided into the Desolate Sea Divine Continent, the Demon Continent's Azure World, and the Heaven Continent's Infinite Realm. The levels were divided into 5 major levels: Cultivation, Spirit, Soul, Tribulation, and Immortal. In Sumo's recovered memories, Xiao Luo was only at the upper stage of the Water Tribulation Realm, which was similar to the middle stage of the Deity Tribulation Realm in the Pure Land. And Sumo's Undead Realm was already at the 4th or 5th stage of the perfected Immortal Realm in the 3 realms. In comparison, Sumo's realm should be above Xiao Luo's. However, the techniques in Xiao Luo's memories were definitely something that Sumo could only come across by chance. Tai Huang Inheritance, Heaven Destroyer, Ancient Scroll, Devil Cultivation Technique. The 3 realms inheritance was definitely not ordinary. From his point of view, Sumo benefited a lot. Sumo slowly sat down and crossed his legs in the room. For a whole 7 days, he didn't move at all. The black fragment had awakened part of Sumo's memories. However, Sumo didn't know what the black fragment was. There was no such thing in his memories. At the same time, Sumo also understood that the memories he awakened were only a small part of it. He didn't know what happened after that. According to Guan Xiong and Miao Long, only those above the Eternal Realm could reincarnate to the Yizong Realm. He himself reincarnated to the Yizong Realm, which meant that he was definitely a rebirth realm cultivator in the 3 realms, or an eternal realm cultivator. However, from the Water Tribulation to the Eternal Realm, it could be said that he went from mortal to immortal. The path to immortality was long, Sumo didn't know how many years had passed after he killed Dongfang Huan and what happened. 7 days. Sumo had been merging all of Xiao Luo and Murong Huang's memories, or rather, he was adapting to everything. Because sometimes, even Sumo didn't know who he was. A devil twin, and then reincarnated again. Sumo smiled bitterly in his heart. To him, Xiao Luo and Murong Huang were still a distance away. It seemed like he could only continue to be his own Sumo. Otherwise, he would be lost in reincarnation, unable to extricate himself. In reality, he really was Sumo. Currently, he could only be considered to have inherited part of Xiao Luo and Murong Huang's memories. However, when the black fragment entered the sea, it brought great changes to Sumo. In 7 days, Sumo's techniques were greatly enriched. Although Sumo was superior in terms of cultivation, Xiao Luo's techniques were incomparable to Sumo's. Sumo spent the 7 days merging. On the 8th day, he slowly opened his eyes. Sumo was still in the mid-stage, undying realm, and he could break through to the late-stage, undying realm at any time. However, there was a trace of vicissitudes and ruthlessness in the depths of his eyes. The recovery of part of his memories had a certain impact on Sumo. Reincarnator. Now, Sumo was sure that he came from the 3 realms. Moreover, the 3 realms held great significance to Sumo. Therefore, he wanted to know everything about the past, and he wanted to find out why the 3 realms had been destroyed. At the same time, he was even more determined to save that green-robed Mu Jinghong. Plum Blossom 5 should know more. That woman was definitely more than just a companion to him. There seemed to be a cold but gradually rekindled fire in Sumo's heart. The road was longer. Sumo took a deep breath, then the corners of his mouth curled up as he stood up. He was going to leave the Dry Guest Inn in northern Qian City. After recovering part of his memories, Sumo felt an inexplicable sense of irritation in the Netherworld realm. However, he still had to go to the Qian Palace sect. If there was an opportunity, Sumo would naturally want to increase his realm as quickly as possible. Thereupon, Sumo left the room and went to the front yard to settle the bill, leaving the Dry Guest Inn. When Sumo came out of the inn, he had already changed into a young cultivator. He was wearing a black robe, and he looked somewhat gloomy. However, it was Xiao Luo's favorite color. At this time, Sumo's temperament was quietly changing. Whether it was Xiao Luo or Murong Yao, they were both born to be kings. Sumo wanted to bring back the kings. Sumo didn't stay in northern Qian City any longer, and headed straight in the direction of the secret realm of the ancient coin. In total, Sumo stayed in northern Qian City for more than 10 days. In order to not expose his identity, he didn't use the Skywheel flying ship, but another flying treasure. Although there was a slight difference in speed, he would be able to reach the secret realm of the ancient coin within half a month. Just as Sumo left northern Qian City, 2 cultivators appeared not too far away from the city. They were the 2 gray-robed, masked cultivators from outside Mount Xianwang that day. However, they didn't know where Sumo was. Chapter 406. Outside northern Qian City. The 2 gray-robed cultivators had ferocious expressions on their faces. The gray-robed male cultivator, who was injured by Sumo back then didn't have any scars on him. Senior sister, he completely disappeared. Even his aura is gone. The gray-robed male cultivator said coldly. I even suspect that his soul has already been destroyed. How could such a cultivator disappear in northern Qian City? The gray-robed female cultivator shook her head. He must have realized something. Then he used a secret technique to hide everything. The gray-robed male cultivator nodded heavily. However, it's really amazing that he could disappear without a trace right under our noses. The sinless lineage actually has such an outstanding person. The gray-robed female cultivator seemed a little unconvinced. Qing Hun, immediately sent a message to the elders in the building. We need the help of the tracking spirit beasts. Otherwise, we'll have no choice but to let him go after 3 days. Yes. The gray-robed cultivator's name was Qing Hun. Qing Hun made a hand seal with both hands. A small teleportation formation appeared in front of him. Then, a letter talisman flew out of his storage bag, directly disappearing into the teleportation formation. He went all the way south. I reckon he's most likely heading for the opening of the ancient money secret realm. Let's go all the way south for now. Let's try our luck. The tracking spirit beasts should arrive soon, the gray-robed female cultivator said. If we're wrong, we'll go back. All right. The gray-robed Ching Hun nodded. After saying that, a large shell appeared under their feet. It was a relatively common flight-type magical treasure in the netherworld realm. Whoosh! With a thought, the two of them instantly flew 100 miles away. In another corner outside, northern Qian City, the white-robed young man, Li Beihan, watched the two gray-robed cultivators leave with a faint smile on his face. An early-stage, undying realm and a middle-stage, undying realm cultivator wanted to kill Sumo? That was simply wishful thinking. To kill Sumo, one had to be at least a deity burial realm cultivator. In the mortal realm, Sumo was absolutely invincible. If the Black Spirit Pavilion really dared to make a move on Sumo, it would be a disaster. At this time, the space beside Li Beihan slightly fluctuated. A figure gradually materialized. It was a white-robed, white-haired, wrinkled old man, and he was actually a hunchback. His face was long and thin, his body was bent, and his back was high. The white-robed old man looked like a white camel. His name was indeed White Camel. Young master, by Camel saluted Li Beihan with a smile on his face. Camel, in a moment, followed those two Ink Soul Pavilion cultivators. Li Beihan said, but don't act rashly and alert them. Keep them, they might still be useful. Yes. White Camel nodded, then asked, then, young master, you're not going to the ancient coin hidden territory? I'm not going. After all, the opening of the Qin Palace was a small matter. Naturally, someone will report back to me about the situation in Tianfu City. Li Beihan smiled and said, the things I'm looking for should be in the 9 nether city of the Central Palace tribe. I'll take this opportunity to take a stroll around the nether city. I'll leave the ancient coin pocket realm to you. Rest assured, young master, this old servant will definitely take care of everything. The old camel smiled. Of course I'm at ease with you taking care of things. Li Beihan smiled again. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the aureole behind. Not to mention, that's not even counting the 2 mantises. Sumo, you have to be careful. Then this old servant will take his leave. Camel nodded. Li Beihan also nodded. The old camel lowered his head slightly, then disappeared. Li Beihan looked in the direction where these groups of people left, paused for a moment, then said to himself naturally, Sumo, something seems to have happened to you. I hope that everything is good and not bad. Li Beihan first frowned, then seemed to think of something, but then shook his head. Then, he disappeared on the spot. The ancient coin hidden territory was in the southeast of the Qian Palace tribe. To be precise, it was near the border between the Qian Palace tribe and the Central Palace tribe, but it belonged to the Qian Palace tribe. There was an ancient town there, called the town of Ancient Coin. On the opening day, the entire ancient town would be covered by the bitter wheel Earth Sea, and then become the entrance to the secret territory. And after the tide receded, the town of Ancient Coin would return to its original appearance. This was a very miraculous thing. Originally, the size of the town of Ancient Coin was not big, but as the number of cultivators rushed to catch the tide increased, its size increased. Although it was not as big as an ordinary immortal city, it was definitely not a small town. After leaving the northern Gan city, Sumo did not stay in the other parts of the Qian Palace tribe for long, only occasionally looking around. There was not much delay on the way. Therefore, when he arrived at the town of Ancient Coin, there were still 7 days before the opening of the tide. Now, there were already many cultivators gathered in the town of Ancient Coin. These cultivators were basically at the soul, transformation, and deity tribulation levels. They came early so that they could be fully prepared. As for undead realm cultivators, they would usually arrive on the day of the beginning of the tide. It was said that after the opening of the tide, the Ancient Coin secret territory would be another space-time. It was extremely vast, and soul, transformation, and deity tribulation cultivators could only move around the periphery of the Ancient Coin secret territory. Only undead cultivators could enter the depths of the secret territory. Of course, the deeper one went, the higher the chance of finding opportunities and the higher the grade of the treasures. It could be said that there was no competition between the soul, transformation, deity tribulation, and undead realms. The town of Ancient Coin was very lively. Sumo did not come late, but he managed to find a small room in an inn with great difficulty. Actually, Sumo did not need to find an inn, but he wanted to be as low-key as possible. An inn could be considered a place to stay. An early-stage soul transformation cultivator staying in a small inn would almost not attract attention. Sumo stayed in this inn peacefully for the night. Unexpectedly, the next day, the inn's waiter knocked on his door. "Senior, sorry to disturb you." The inn waiter was a middle-stage core formation cultivator. His face was full of smiles. "What's the matter?" Sumo asked. The inn waiter felt that Sumo's tone was a bit cold and not easy to approach, so he hurriedly said, "Senior, you're here to catch the tide, right?" "Yes." Sumo nodded. His face still did not have much of an expression. The inn waiter felt a bit cold standing in front of Sumo. "Since Senior is here to catch the tide, I'll make it short. I'll make a long story short. I'm here to help some of the tide catchers distribute the scrolls. The ancient coin secret realm is full of danger. If everyone can go in together, they can take care of each other. This is the scroll. If you're interested, you can take a look. If you don't, just pretend I never came." After saying that, the inn waiter took out a sheepskin scroll from his robe and handed one to Sumo. Sumo took it and lightly said, "Got it." The inn waiter smiled awkwardly, then turned around and went to another room. Sumo closed the door and opened the scroll in her hand. In fact, the so-called scroll was similar to a leaflet. Many of the tide catchers were individual cultivators who did not belong to any sections. Some of these cultivators, for safety's sake, spontaneously formed groups and looked after each other in the ancient coin secret realm. Cultivators who formed groups like this had as many as 30 to 50 people, and as few as 3 to 5 people, each with their own name and requirements. Northern Xianku, Cloud Central Alliance, Fate Puller. Sumo glanced at the names, requirements, and gathering places of the various groups on the sheepskin scroll, and couldn't help but sneer. He was not too interested in these things. After recovering part of his memory, Sumo liked to be alone even more. However, at this time, the name of an organization attracted his attention. Three Realms Galaxy. Founder, Song Sheng. Requirements: none. Gathering place: Old Town Dilapidated Temple. Sumo slightly raised an eyebrow. Chapter 407. Three Realms Galaxy. Sumo stared at the 4 words on the parchment and was slightly shocked. 3 realms? Galaxy? Could this name be a coincidence? But there wouldn't be that many coincidences in the world. Behind all coincidences, there must be a cause and effect. Sumo had always believed this. Now, he believed it even more. There must be a meaning behind the name, Three Realms Galaxy. However, this meaning might only be understood by those from the 3 realms. At this thought, Sumo pushed the door open. Senior. The waiter who had just delivered the parchment to the other rooms ran into Sumo. "There's a rundown temple in this town." Sumo didn't waste any time. "Leave the inn, head east 3 miles. The waiter answered. Sumo nodded and left the inn. "Senior, take care," the waiter said from behind Sumo. The waiter felt that this cultivator in black was a bit gloomy, but he didn't dare to offend him. Sumo didn't care about what he thought. She left the inn and headed east. The town of Ancient Money wasn't small, but the inn Sumo stayed in was considered remote. 3 miles to the east, the land became more deserted. It wasn't exactly deserted, but it was very run down. However, the waiter of the inn was right. Sumo saw an old temple. The temple looked quite old. It had been in disrepair for many years and was in ruins. However, that rundown temple reminded Sumo of the rundown temple outside Peach Blossom Town in this life. Unfortunately, there was no group of beggars outside the dilapidated temple in the town of Ancient Coin, nor was there any old profound. However, there was a middle-aged cultivator with disheveled hair sitting on the steps of the temple. Late-stage deities, tribulation. The middle-aged cultivator was also wearing a black robe, but it was somewhat stained. His head was lowered, as if he was dozing off. The cultivator in black gave off a desolate and dispirited feeling. As Sumo approached, the cultivator in black slowly raised his head. It was a rather ugly face. Among cultivators, there weren't many who looked like this. Sumo raised her eyebrows slightly. He did not recognize that cultivator. Be it the memories of the three realms or Izong, there was no such person. Senior. Sumo cupped her hands towards the black-robed cultivator. At this moment, he was still holding the sheepskin scroll in his hand. The black-robed middle-aged cultivator looked at Sumo, but his expression didn't change much. You saw the sheepskin scroll? Yes. Sumo said, Are you Senior Kinshung? You want to establish the Three Realms galaxy and then prepare to enter the secret realm together, right? The middle-aged cultivator in black nodded. My name is Yi Kanshung. I am Sumo. Sumo cupped his hands again. After all, it seemed that Yi Sanqing's cultivation was above his. He was only at the early stage of the soul transformation realm. He should have his own polite attitude. Why? Join my Three Realms galaxy? Why not choose another team? Yi Kanshing asked. Because there are no requirements here. Sumo smiled faintly. Junior is at the early stage of the soul transformation realm, the lowest realm to enter the secret realm. I belong to the category of loose cultivators that no one is willing to recruit. Oh? Huh. When Yi Kanshung heard this, he paused for a moment and then laughed bitterly. That makes sense. But I'm afraid you're not the person I'm looking for. Sumo pretended to be surprised. Senior, who are you looking for? Then does Junior still have the qualifications to enter the secret realm with Senior? I'm looking for someone who belongs to the Three Realms galaxy. Yi Sanqing's eyes were full of vicissitudes. Are you? Sumo looked a little embarrassed. Junior doesn't know what Senior is talking about. Yi Kenshin nodded and sighed. It's fine. Anyway, I've been waiting here for half a month and no one has come. So I'll count you in. We can take care of each other. Thank you, Senior. Sumo hurriedly thanked him. May I know where Senior will be staying? Where will I be staying? Yi Kenshin shook his head. I've been hanging around in this rundown temple. 6 days later, when the tide starts at noon, you just have to get here in advance. Otherwise, after the tide starts and the surrounding space changes, I'm afraid we won't be able to meet again. Junior understands. Sumo saw that Yi Kanshung was not a talkative person, so she wanted to take her leave and come back on the day of the tide. However, at this moment, from the west, in the direction from which Sumo came, another cultivator came. Deity Tribulation, Great Circle. Moreover, it was a female cultivator. The female cultivator wore a light blue long dress, but her figure was quite good, and her curves were extremely beautiful. However, her face was covered by a blue veil, covered by a spell. Whether it was Sumo or Yi Kanshung, neither could see the female cultivator's appearance. Only a pair of beautiful eyes could be seen, clear as water, but there was a hint of sadness in the depths of them. Which one of you is Kanshung? The blue-clothed woman's voice was gentle and pleasing to the ear. I am. Yi Kanshung was the first to answer. Greetings, Your Excellency. The blue-clothed woman looked at Yi Kanshung and then at Sumo. Are you both from the Three Realms? Sumo shook her head, but Yi Sanqing's eyes lit up. Young lady, are you from the Three Realms? Yi Kanshung slowly stood up. The name Three Realms Galaxy didn't come out of nowhere, right? Not only did the blue-clothed woman not answer Yi Sanqing's question, but she also asked another question. Of course. Yi Kanshung looked at the blue-clothed woman and said, In front of me is the Three Realms, and behind me is the galaxy. I'm from the Shattered Galaxy. Young lady, do you want to join us? The Shattered Galaxy. The blue-clothed woman sighed. In the boundless universe, it's like looking for a needle in a haystack. However, the Three Realms are inextinguishable. Since I'm here, I'll naturally join you. I'm Yi Kanshung. Yi Kanshung. The blue-clothed woman frowned. I don't know you. Sumo had been standing quietly by the side, not saying a word. At that moment, she realized that the blue-clothed woman and Yi Kansheng were both awakened reincarnators of the three realms. Two former eternal realms? Sumo was a little shocked. "Young lady, what's your name?" Yi Kansheng asked. "Yu Wuji," the blue-clothed woman said. "Yu Wuji?" Yi Kansheng thought for a moment. "Which you?" Yi Sanqing's question made Sumo's heart skip a beat. He looked at the blue-clothed woman and couldn't help but narrow his eyes. That was because this name reminded him of someone. "Gongoyu," the blue-clothed woman replied. "Do you know me?" Yi Kansheng shook his head, then smiled bitterly. There was the three realms before and the Milky Way behind. What's the point of knowing each other in our past lives and this life? Back then, the Holy Father, Mu, broke the karma, and everything started anew. Except for the unextinguished obsession in my heart, the other cultivators of the three realms are all old friends. "Huh," Yu Wuji laughed coldly. "Everyone is like that. The karma of others has been severed, but the obsession in our own matters is unextinguished. I don't believe that the Holy Father Amu really broke everything. Otherwise, the three realms should live forever." Yi Kansheng was a little embarrassed, because Yu Wuji was right. "I'll see you at noon on the day of the opening tide." Yu Wuji didn't say anything more. He just looked at Sumo and frowned. She turned around and left. Sumo bowed to Yi Kansheng, then turned around and left. Yi Kansheng looked at their backs and smiled bitterly. But in his heart he said, "It's samsara, and everyone is hiding." Chapter 408. Sumo returned to the inn. It could be said that Sumo had gained a lot from this trip. Sumo didn't expect that there would be two reincarnators of the three realms. The probability of such a thing happening was too low. If she counted herself, there would be three of them. Perhaps this meant that the Netherworld realm was a special place. Sumo thought of the young man in white clothes, Li Beihan. His surname was Li, and his name was Beihan. Moreover, he gave her a lotus-shaped jade pendant. The corner of Sumo's mouth slightly rose. She had some speculations about the identity of that young man. However, did Li Beihan know who she was? If he did, would he still give her that life-saving pendant? Sumo didn't know the answer. Yi Kansheng, Yu Wuji, Li Beihan. The Netherworld realm could be considered a gathering of experts. Sumo could only wait and see. After all, Sumo didn't know what would happen after the tide started. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. There were only 2 more days until the tide started. During these 3 days, everything was calm. However, the number of cultivators in the ancient town kept increasing. Some cultivators in the undead realm also appeared. However, Sumo just stayed in the inn and didn't go out. That night, Sumo was meditating in the inn. The little white pig was lying on a soft praying mat next to him, sleeping soundly. One man and one beast, it was very peaceful. However, at midnight, Sumo suddenly opened his eyes. The little white pig also stopped snoring and became alert. Whoosh, a black light came through the window lattice and headed straight for the space between Sumo's eyebrows. Before Sumo could do anything, the little white pig directly flew up. The little guy opened his mouth and directly caught the black light in his mouth. It was a black steel needle. This kind of assassination method could only be considered low level. Sumo sneered and left the room in a flash. The little white pig followed closely behind. The town of ancient money didn't have a true night. The Netherworld realm was a space at the bottom of the sea. At this time, it was midnight, but there were only relatively few pedestrians, and the sky was slightly dark. Sumo stood in the void and spread out her divine sense. The little white pig had a wingspan of 7 to 8 feet. The silver wings emitted a faint silver light, extremely dazzling. That pair of fangs was even more terrifying. Now, the little white pig's combat power had increased by a whole new level. Even if it faced an undying cultivator, it could still contend with him. Far away, a gray shadow disappeared in an instant. However, he had already been locked by Sumo's divine sense. The corner of Sumo's mouth curled up coldly. The little white pig looked at the gray shadow and snorted, because it remembered that smell. Back then, Sumo had purposely let it sniff. "I didn't look for you. but you still dare to look for me. It's time to settle the score for what happened back then. Sumo sneered. So what if you lure me out? Today, I'll fulfill your wish. After saying this much, Sumo's body moved, heading straight for the gray-robed cultivator. The little white pig spread its wings, and its speed seemed to be even faster. Flying pig. This was the first time the little guy had the opportunity to show off its strength after becoming stronger. It was as fast as lightning. However, the speed of the gray-robed cultivator wasn't slow either. In the blink of an eye, they had arrived several hundred kilometers away from the town of Ancient Money. This was the border between the Qin Palace tribe and the Dui Palace tribe. There were many mountains rising and falling continuously. In addition, the mountains here were all black. From afar, it looked like numerous black dragons were lying on the ground. This was indeed a good place to kill someone. The gray-robed cultivator seemed to have slowed down on purpose, turning around and stopping in the middle of a valley. Several dozen zhang away, Sumo and the little white pig also stopped. The gray-robed ghost mask. That was actually Qing Han from the Ink's Soul Tower, who had killed 3 undead. At this moment, Qing Han said coldly to Sumo, "You're really fast." The dragon elephant soul-devouring beast is a mutated species from the Pure Land. It seems like you've been to the Pure Land continent, or come from there. Sumo sneered. That day, you killed people to silence them. Those 3 undead were also attracted by you, right? Now, you actually dare to come and kill me? Do you really think I'm a fish on a chopping block? I'm a businessman. If someone offers a price, I'll kill them. An undead cultivator from the sinless lineage can be exchanged for at least 3,000 supreme-grade spirit stones in a netherworld city. Moreover, you're a fat sheep. Qing Han sneered. How can I let go of such a business opportunity? You're an assassin from the Ink's Soul Tower? Sumo asked. He remembered Li Beihin's words. Oh, Qing Han's tone didn't sound too surprised. You got the news very quickly. But what surprised me even more was that you actually changed your face. If there wasn't a tracking spirit beast, I really wouldn't have been able to find you. At this moment, 4 white-furred, rat-like spirit beasts appeared around Qing Han. They should be the tracking spirit beasts he mentioned. Sumo, are you really a member of the sinless lineage? And do you know the so-called Linghu He Huan? Qing Han asked slowly. It seemed that he had been following Sumo these days, because he already knew Sumo's name. Hee. Sumo sneered again. Now, that's not important anymore. Since your Ink Soul Tower wants to kill me for business, then there's no need to ask any more questions. And what? Qing Han asked. And now, it's not a matter of you wanting to kill me, but me wanting to destroy the entire Ink Soul Tower. Sumo's eyes flashed with hostility. At the same time, he made his move. In the past, Sumo couldn't be considered as a real decisive killer, but he always had a trace of compromise in his heart. After all, it wasn't easy for every cultivator to cultivate. However, the current Sumo was different. Xiao Luo and Murong Huang had seen too many life and death situations. The great Murong dynasty had millions of ordinary people, but Murong Huang could abandon them. What's more, there was someone who wanted to kill him now. All living beings were once ants, so how could a killer be a threat? Sumo's movement was extremely fast, and a black light went straight to Qing Han in gray. The Ink Soul Tower not only trained cultivators, but also killers. Although Qing Han was only at the early stage of undying, his fighting style was extremely strange. Today, if it wasn't for luring Sumo here, he wouldn't have fought with Sumo head-on. Qing Han's movement technique was also very fast. That way, it would be convenient for assassination or escape. However, Sumo's speed exceeded his expectations. Sumo might be at the middle stage of undying, and he had already prepared for this. However, Sumo's speed was comparable to the late stage of undying, and even close to the peak stage. As soon as the black shadow moved, Qing Han felt an extremely strong sense of oppression. They were both in the undying realm, so there shouldn't be any oppression between them, but Qing Han's feeling was like oppression. Qing Han was shocked. He didn't have this feeling when he was in Mount Xianwang. In just over 20 days, Sumo's body seemed to have undergone an indescribable change. For Ching Hun, it was an extremely terrifying change. Ching Hun's figure quickly retreated, and at the same time, he had already stretched out his long sword. Sumo didn't use the broken bamboo pole, but directly grabbed Ching Hun's head with one hand. The rootless fingers were slightly bent, slender, and white. The fingertips were surrounded by a faint black gas. That was the technique of the Three Realms' heaven-shattering ancient scroll. Of course, Ching Hun had never seen it before. He wanted to use the immortal sword to force Sumo back. However, he didn't see what was going on at all. Sumo's 5 fingers actually broke through his immortal sword. At the same time, he saw a strange black light flickering in Sumo's eyes. Ching Hun's sea of consciousness slightly stagnated. Mind-manipulating technique. Puff! In a flash, Sumo's 5 fingers directly penetrated Ching Hun's head. Red and white brain matter instantly gushed out. Chapter 409. Early Undead Killed in One Move. At the moment of his death, Ching Hun couldn't believe it was true. In theory, an early undead of Ink's Spirit Pavilion could fight against a middle undead. In a head-on confrontation, although the winning rate was extremely low, it wouldn't result in instant death. Ching Hun knew that Sumo wasn't ordinary, so he didn't intend to really fight against Sumo. However, he still underestimated Sumo's ability. One move, just one move. When his 5 fingers penetrated Ching Hun's head, Sumo heard the sound of his skull cracking and saw the scene of his brain gushing out. At that moment, there was an inexplicable sense of excitement in Sumo's heart. There was a smile hanging on the corner of his mouth. That smile was a bit cruel. Ink's Spirit Pavilion had already been blacklisted in Sumo's heart. And at the moment when Sumo killed Ching Hun, the atmosphere in the entire valley had changed. Boom! Ching Hun's body suddenly exploded. Sumo's reaction was extremely fast. His figure retreated like lightning, and at the same time, his body had already lit up with a mysterious light. Devil energy protection. In fact, there was no devil energy in Sumo's body now, only an endless stream of undying chi. However, his technique was interlinked, and he instantly put up a defense. Even so, Sumo's black robe was splashed with a lot of brain. Sumo raised his eyebrows. Seal. It was unknown who shouted in the valley. A faint gray fog suddenly spread throughout the entire valley. A barrier spell. This valley had already been covered with a spell, and Ching Hun could only be regarded as an abandoned chess piece. When he lured Sumo here, his mission in life basically ended at the same time. Boom! Crack! 2 boulders in front and behind Sumo suddenly exploded. It was an undead talisman. 2 masses of undead force turned into a long blade and slashed down. Sumo's expression didn't change. The broken bamboo pole was already in his hand. He stood still and swung it left and right. Boom! Pa! The 2 masses of undead force dissipated. At the same time, the mountains on both sides of the valley began to move. It was as if 2 doors were about to merge, and Sumo was sandwiched in the middle, and the speed was extremely fast. A strong wind blew, sending sand and gravel flying. The void suddenly lit up with starlight. Tens of thousands of steel needles fell like a meteor shower. All of the needles were imbued with the power of undying. On the ground, clusters of runes spread out like a whirlpool of water. Not only was there a spirit formation in the entire valley, but there was also a killing formation within the spirit formation. This time, for the sake of this transaction, the Inksoul Tower could be considered to have put in a lot of capital. An inescapable net. Sumo frowned, not because of the situation, but because of the rising killing intent in her heart. Currently, this killing array could not kill Sumo at all. For Sumo, who had recovered part of her memory, this was really a small game. We came out to chase after gray-robed Ching Hun. He knew that there was a trap here. Sumo patted her storage pouch, and the tattered cloth pouch flew out. He opened the mouth of the pouch and saw that it was empty inside, as if it contained a whole world. Collect! Sumo shouted softly. Those steel needles with the power of undying instantly gathered and fell directly into the tattered cloth pouch. Silently, like snow falling into the long river. The tattered cloth pouch could collect anything. Needles like these were nothing to him. As for the two oncoming mountains, Sumo did not even look at them. She simply ignored them. However, Sumo directly inserted the tattered bamboo pole into the ground. At the same time, he formed a seal with his hand. In an instant, the runes on the ground suddenly exploded. The tattered bamboo pole, like a drill, went straight into the ground. Boom! Crack! The earth rolled, as if there was a dragon moving. Who? Two gray-robed cultivators directly rushed out of the ground. Two cultivators, one male and one female. One of the male cultivator's arms had been directly pierced by the tattered bamboo pole. However, they still held their immortal swords and went straight to Sumo. Sumo's strength was definitely beyond the expectations of the Ink Soul Tower. With the early stage of Undying as the guide and the Deep Valley Boundary as the array. Then, there were also two middle-stage Undying killers lurking underground. These two middle-stage Undying killers were definitely the elite forces of the Ink Soul Tower. Usually, they would not go on a mission at the same time. One of them was the senior sister who once traveled with Qing Han. In the view of the Ink Soul Tower, they had made full preparations. However, all of this was either seen through by Sumo or seen through by him. The two moving mountains were simply an illusion. The real killing intent was hidden underground. The biggest killing move was the two middle-stage Undying killers. They were at the same level as Sumo. Using two to kill one, supplemented by a killing array, the Ink Soul Tower should have succeeded. However, Sumo could kill an Undying in the Divine Tribulation period. Let alone now, just at the moment when the two cultivators flew out, a purple-robed female cultivator was already standing beside Sumo. Ghost Shadow, a puppet of the great perfection of the undead realm. At present, this was already an ordinary puppet in Sumo's storage bag. However, she was more than enough to deal with the Ink Soul killers. Female cultivator against female cultivator. Ghost Shadow's body was really like a ghost shadow. When the gray-robed female cultivator went straight to Sumo, Ghost Shadow directly greeted her. The female cultivator had a sword, but Ghost Shadow did not use her sword at all. Her purple robe, her flesh, were all weapons. Whoosh! With a flick of her purple long sleeve, an endless strong wind blew. The undead chi filled the void. Ghost Shadow was not an ordinary puppet. Her spiritual wisdom was even higher than Sumo's other three purple-robed puppets. Therefore, her fighting style was more reasonable and more direct. The purple long sleeve swept towards the immortal sword. Ghost Shadow's other hand directly grabbed the immortal heart of the gray-robed female cultivator. Ghost Shadow's white jade hand was flawless, almost no different from a real female cultivator's. However, her hand was an undead divine weapon. In fact, Ghastly Shadow had only used extremely simple moves. However, the most important thing was the speed. Everything happened in a flash. In the blink of an eye, it could even be said to happen at the same time. The gray-robed female cultivator's sword seemed to be sent into Ghost Shadow's long sleeve. Her body seemed to be colliding with Ghost Shadow's claws. Undead puppet, the gray-robed female cultivator exclaimed. However, it was already too late. Just as she was about to abandon her sword and retreat, Ghost Shadow's claws had already arrived. Puff! Ghost Shadow's claws pierced through the gray-robed female cultivator's heart. In an instant, blood gushed out, staining her black robe with golden blood. The gray-robed female cultivator groaned. However, Ghost Shadow's hand slightly shook, because there was no immortal heart in that position. That gray-robed female cultivator had a special life-saving method. And at this moment, the gray-robed female cultivator suddenly retreated. Disregarding the bloody hole in her immortal heart, she desperately summoned a talisman. Boom! The talisman exploded, releasing a grayish-yellow fog. Ghost Shadow rushed into the fog, but that gray-robed female cultivator had already disappeared without a trace. At the same time, Sumo's broken bamboo pole had already pierced the head of another male cultivator. Two undead middle-stage cultivators, in the blink of an eye, one died and the other fled. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The spirit beasts in the air seemed to be panicking and were not choosing their path carefully. They were special spirit beasts that could only be used for tracking. They didn't have much combat power. Oomph. The little white pig hadn't had a chance to display its strength. So when it saw that white mouse-like spirit beast, how could it be polite? Roar! With a flap of its silver wings, the little white pig turned in the void and directly swallowed the 4 spirit beasts. Then it stuck out its tongue and licked its lips. It seemed that the taste of those spirit beasts wasn't bad. Whoosh, crack! At this time, the entire barrier collapsed. The mountain valley returned to its original appearance. Sumo gently waved her hand, dusting off the stains on her body, and said to herself, "Ink Spirit Pavilion, we still have a lot of time. Wait until I come back. We will definitely meet again." Finished speaking, Sumo waved her hand and took Ghost Shadow away, bringing the little white pig straight to Ancient Coin Town. Chapter 410. They came and went in a hurry. When Sumo returned to the town of Ancient Money, it had not even been 15 minutes. Such a battle within the boundary did not attract the attention of any cultivators in the town of Ancient Money. However, in the mountain where Sumo was fighting, an old man in white gradually appeared. It was White Camel, who was ordered by Li Beihan to secretly follow Sumo. He had seen everything that had happened just now. Sumo's ruthlessness was more or less out of his expectations. He did not expect the assassins of the Ink Spirit Pavilion to be so weak in front of Sumo. "Huh, young master, it seems that I don't need to do anything." White Camel muttered to himself, then slowly walked towards the town of Ancient Money. White Camel was like an ordinary cultivator. He maintained his cultivation at the early stage of the deity tribulation. After Sumo returned to the inn, he did not speak for the whole night. He estimated that the Ink Spirit Pavilion would stop for a period of time. Once the tide receded 9 months later, he would naturally settle the score with the Ink Spirit Pavilion without the Ink Spirit Pavilion looking for him. The next day was the day of the tide opening. Sumo packed everything and went to the rundown temple according to the original agreement. There was still more than 2 hours before the tide opening. However, the entire town of Ancient Money was extremely quiet. At that moment, the ancient town seemed to have stopped moving. On the long street, there were already no sounds of hawking, and all the shops were in a state of closure. There were occasionally cultivators walking on the street, but they all walked forward silently. Everyone had a tacit understanding, and they were all quietly waiting for the tide of the Earth Sea. The tide opening was a grand occasion for the 9 underworlds. However, this was not a festival, but an opportunity and a challenge. There were indeed many opportunities in the Ancient Money secret realm, but there were always a large number of cultivators who never returned. Therefore, before the tide came, the cultivators were nervous and excited, expectant and apprehensive, especially those cultivators who rushed the tide for the first time, because although they had done a lot of homework, they had not truly experienced it. Sumo's mood was rather calm. After all, he was a person who had experienced too many life and death situations. After recovering those memories, his entire person had undergone a qualitative change and improvement. 3 miles of road, Sumo walked for 15 minutes. He walked very slowly. Yi Qianshan sat casually on the steps outside the rundown temple. He was still wearing the same black robe with stains on it. His long hair, which hung loosely over his shoulders, did not seem clean either. Shabby and sloppy. Sumo understood that everyone in the 3 realms must have their own stories, just like him. However, his temperament was the exact opposite of Yi Sanqing's. His black robe had to be spotless. The fact that Qing Hun's brains were on his body made him raise his eyebrows. At the same time, Sumo's eyes could be filled with vicissitudes of life, ruthlessness, and even melancholy, but she would never be dispirited or give up. Murong and Xiao Luo were not that kind of people. Sumo naturally wanted to be the king. Their souls belonged to the never-ending struggle, never giving up, never retreating. It was better to suffer eternal damnation than to seek freedom from the saints. That was when Muron's Tao, as well as Xiao Luo's Tao. Reincarnation after reincarnation, only to fight again. Therefore, although Sumo did not know Yi Sancheng's story, she could understand Yi Kansheng, but she would not abandon herself like Yi Kansheng. When Yi Kansheng saw Sumo, he nodded slightly and did not say anything. Sumo nodded and returned the greeting, but did not say anything. He found a clean spot and sat cross-legged. There was still some time before the tide began. They only needed to wait quietly. After a while, a blue figure appeared in the void. Yu Wuji's graceful figure landed in front of the rundown temple. That temperament was not something an ordinary person could compare to. Sumo sighed in her heart, but did not say anything. This woman should be considered his former enemy. Yu Wuji did not say anything either. Like Sumo, he found a place to meditate. The three reincarnators of the three realms, each with their own thoughts, did not speak to each other. The three of them were only 30 feet away from each other, forming a triangle. After a while, Yi Kansheng finally spoke. "Gentlemen, I entered the ancient coin pocket realm 300 years ago. It has 3 layers. Back then, I was only in the outer 3rd layer and did not dare to go in. This time, I want to enter the 2nd layer. What do you think?" Sumo said, "Senior, since you are the one who organized the 3 realms galaxy, I will listen to you. However, I hope you can take care of me at the critical moment." "Ha!" Yi Kansheng smiled bitterly. "The ancient coin realm is ever-changing. It can change the world with a single step. Since we are allies, we must take care of each other. However, if we encounter an extremely powerful enemy, we cannot even protect ourselves. Then, we can only seek our own survival to avoid being wiped out." "Of course." Sumo nodded. "How do we split the treasures?" Yu Wuji asked. Yu Wuji shook his head and smiled. "It seems that this is your first time. You should know that some of the treasures in the realm need to be fated to recognize their owners. They belong to whoever can take them. The rest of the things that couldn't be recognized as masters were all ordinary objects. I only need 30%. Miss, you are a perfected deity tribulation cultivator. How about 50%? Little brother, you have the lowest cultivation, so you should get 20%. Do you have any objections?" Yi Wuji looked at Sumo. "No problem." Sumo nodded. He entered the ancient coin realm mainly to search for fated opportunities. Since Yi Kansheng said so, he naturally had no objections. "All right." Yu Wuji nodded. She paused, then looked at Yi Kansheng and Sumo. She said slowly, "The 3 realms galaxy has a different meaning. Because the galaxy has been shattered, we are all foreigners. If there is any danger in the ancient coin realm, I'll do my best. Please don't hold back. I hope we can all come out alive." Yu Wuji emphasized. Hearing Yu Wuji's words, Yi Sancheng's expression froze. A light flashed in his eyes. That light didn't match his desolate aura. That was the former Yi Kansheng. The descendants of the galaxy are all comrades. Yi Sancheng's words were powerful. Sumo understood, although he denied his identity as a reincarnator of the 3 realms. But both Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji saw him as a reincarnator of the 3 realms. They had a tacit understanding, but didn't point out. For various reasons, they were hiding. They had formed a temporary team, so there was no real contract between them. This was a taboo for those who formed an alliance. The descendants of the galaxy were all comrades. But these words were enough to penetrate the heart of the reincarnation of the 3 realms. The descendants of the galaxy are all comrades. The veil on Yu Wuji's face rippled. His eyes brightened. "Yi Kansheng, well said. The galaxy is where the dreaming soul is." And so, Yu Wuji raised his right hand and waved it in the air. A warm smile appeared on Yi Sancheng's face. At the same time, he raised his right hand. Sumo sighed. If Yu Wuji could do this, what about him? The 3 realms were destroyed. Many karmic ties were gone, but they were all from the 3 realms. In Yizong, they were all wanderers. Clap. Sumo raised her hand. The 3 high-fived and formed an alliance. This time, Sumo tacitly admitted that she was also from the 3 realms. Because in the 3 realms, such an alliance meant swearing on the Tao heart that they would not betray each other. Ha ha ha, ha ha. Yi Sancheng's long hair fluttered. He laughed. Izong. One day, You will return the three realms and restore the galaxy. Come, wonderful book house. Chapter 411. Hide. One day, you will return the three realms, return the galaxy. Yi Sanqing's words shook Sumo's soul, because he still couldn't understand everything. What did that mean? That's right. Return my love, restore my brilliant life. Yu Wuji's blue dress fluttered. Although Sumo could not understand their words, but the love and pain they felt, Sumo could feel it. The story of the three realms. Sumo must remember it all, must understand it all. That black fragment allowed Sumo to recover part of her memory, but Sumo did not know what it was. Whoosh! At this moment, a gust of wind blew in the void. The originally slightly bright void gradually darkened. Layers of thick clouds appeared in the sky above the town of Ancient Money. Actually, the sky of the nine underworlds was the bottom of the Bitterwheel Sea. At this moment, huge vortexes appeared one after another in the void. The entire sky was spinning. The so-called whirlpools were just like this. The tide is coming. Yi Kanshang said, prepare the water trap talismans. Cultivators above the soul transformation realm could already avoid ordinary fire and water. But the water of the Bitterwheel Sea was not ordinary, especially the tide water. It actually contained the power of the undying realm. Without the water trap talismans, one could only use one's own strength to resist. Unless one had an endless supply of spiritual energy, one would definitely be swallowed by the tide. From his point of view, Sumo really did not need the water trap talismans. But there was an easy way who would use spiritual energy to resist the tide. Therefore, the water trap talisman was a must-have for controlling the tide. It could protect the cultivator in a ball of light until everything in the mystic realm stabilized. After the tide, the undying realm would naturally disappear. That was only the first stage of the tide. Whoosh! Looking at the town of Ancient Money, countless water trap talismans lit up at the same time. At this moment, if one stood in the void and looked down at the town of Ancient Money and its surroundings, one would see that this area looked like thousands of stars falling to the ground, endless brilliance shooting into the sky. Sumo, Yi Kanshang, and Yu Wuji also took out their water trap talismans. The three of them were still in a triangular formation, but their water trap talismans were connected to each other to prevent them from being separated by the tide. Boom, boom. Immediately, Sumo felt the earth begin to shake. But the vibrations were not irregular, but were rhythmically slow and gentle. At that moment, it was as if the earth was slowly opening a door, preparing to welcome the tide. The wind blew and the earth trembled. Almost all the people in the netherworld realm who would come whenever there was a tide were already used to it. This was the prelude to the beginning of the season. They prepared everything calmly and even had smiles on their faces. When the tide came, opportunities would also come. At this moment, the entire sky continued to darken. Black clouds pressed down on the city, threatening to destroy it. Normal tides came from the surrounding seas. However, the town of Ancient Money wasn't near the sea. The tide of the town of Ancient Money came from the sky. At that moment, Sumo was really a little surprised. Do you not see the tides coming from the heavens? The tides are coming. Yi Kanshang said. Whoosh, whoosh, the rain poured down like a tide. All the whirlpools in the sky seemed to have opened the gates of heaven. Endless seawater poured down from the sky. At this time, cultivators below the soul transformation realm wouldn't be able to withstand such an impact. Soul transformation realm, deity tribulation realm, and even undying realm cultivators had to rely on the water trap talismans to stay standing. It was truly a miraculous sight. The sky was collapsing and the Milky Way was overturned. The entire area within a radius of several hundred kilometers of the town of Ancient Money was flooded by the sea. However, it seemed as if it was being controlled by some mysterious power. The tide was only within a radius of several hundred kilometers and didn't spread outwards. It rushed downwards and then circled back up. The entire town of Ancient Money was turning into a world of water. From a distance, everything around the town of Ancient Money had disappeared. A pillar of water with a circumference of several hundred kilometers stood between the heavens and the earth. It was the secret realm of the ancient money that the cultivators of the netherworld were talking about. The tide had begun. It was gradually forming, and it would only disappear in 9 months from today. During this time, all the cultivators of the netherworld could come and go as they pleased. However, very few cultivators would come and go. Most of the cultivators would wait for the tide to reseed before coming out, or they wouldn't enter again after coming out. Of course, there are also cultivators who disappeared forever. At this time, Sumo was inside the light ball of the water trap talisman, watching as the tide fell, and everything around her gradually changed. The tide drowned everything, and also changed everything. As far as Sumo could see, the first thing to disappear was the dilapidated temple behind them. Sumo, Yi Kansheng, and Yu Wuji could see each other. Yi Sanqing's expression was the calmest. After all, he had experienced it once. In Yu Wuji's beautiful eyes, there was also shock. She was the same as Sumo. She didn't expect the tide of the netherworld to be so shocking. The dilapidated temple disappeared, and the other buildings of the ancient town in the distance also disappeared. Gradually, the surging tide seemed to fade bit by bit. The thinning was very strange. The tide dispersed in all directions, but it filtered this world. The town of ancient money had completely disappeared. Everything within a radius of several kilometers had also disappeared. The distance between Sumo, Yi Kansheng, and Yu Wuji didn't change, but they felt like they were in another space-time. About half an hour later, the arcane realm has stabilized. Yi Kansheng transmitted his voice. Following Yi Sanqing's transmission, the water trap talisman in front of the three of them started to lose its effect. This meant that the tide had passed, and the undying energy in the arcane realm had dissipated. At this time, Sumo raised her head to look at the void. There seemed to be endless clouds. In this arcane realm, there was no difference between heaven and earth, day and night. Everything was gray, which reminded Sumo of the desolate soul, arcane realm in the three realms. The ancient money arcane realm was definitely a special space-time. Remember where we are now. If we want to leave the ancient money arcane realm in advance, we need to return here and use the rising sea talisman, Yi Kansheng said. Yes. Sumo and Yu Wuji nodded. They looked left and right. There was a landmark here. In the east, less than 300 feet away, there was a withered tree. And under the ancient tree, there was an old well. Unfortunately, it was a withered well. Such an existence made people feel very strange. In the ancient money arcane realm, besides the 9 serenities cultivators, are there others? Sumo asked. I'm not sure. Yi Kansheng naturally saw the old well. Back then, I only moved around the periphery. The people I met were all 9 serenities cultivators. I've never seen anyone from the arcane realm. But I feel that there might be cultivators from this space-time in this arcane realm, because in a while, we will find many remnants. At least there was someone in this space-time, Yi Kansheng said with certainty. Neither Sumo nor Yu Wuji said anything. Sumo didn't know what Yu Wuji was thinking. But at this moment, Sumo recalled Li Beihan's words, wondering if something was happening to Tianfu City. At the same time, he wondered if he could return to the Soul Altar abode. Let's go. We'll go straight to the passage to the second secret realm, Yi Kansheng said. They all had the ancient money arcane map, so it was relatively easy. Sumo and Yu Wuji followed Yi Kansheng, riding the wind. There was still some way to go to the second secret realm. Just after they left, there were ripples on the ground. The white-robed old camel had appeared in the ancient money arcane realm alone. He stooped and glanced at the ancient tree and well. Then, he gently sighed and shook his head. 8. Chapter 412. The ancient coin mystic realm was deep and boundless. How big it was, perhaps no one in Nine Nether could say for sure. The map in the hands of Sumo and the other two was drawn with ancient Coin Town as the starting point. According to the map, they were already 1,000 miles away from ancient Coin Town. If calculated from ancient Coin Town, the map in their hands indicated a depth of about 7 to 8,000 miles. But that was only the entire third and second stage of the realm. There were no markings on the map for the first stage of the realm further in. The first stage of the ancient coin realm was an area that only undying late and undying great perfection cultivators could set foot in. But those 9 nether cultivators who had entered the first stage of the realm were all kept a secret. So what was inside the first stage of the ancient coin realm had always been a mystery. It was Sumo's first time entering the ancient coin mystic realm, and she didn't expect to enter the first stage of the realm. After all, she didn't know much about this place. What she hoped was to obtain an opportunity to advance. At this moment, she and Yu Wuji followed behind Yi Kansheng, heading straight for the boundary between the third and second stage of the realm. Along the way, they didn't meet with any trouble. It was strangely calm. This made Yi Kansheng a little surprised. Even Sumo and Yu Wuji felt that this was different from what they heard. They had heard that in the ancient coin mystic realm, there were many beasts and spiritual objects. If they were lucky, there would be treasures everywhere. But they didn't see anything valuable. Hee, I don't know if our luck is too good or bad. Yi Kansheng smiled bitterly. 300 years ago, I entered the ancient coin mystic realm for the first time. Along the way, we met quite a number of spirit transformation realm high-level spiritual beasts, and there were even 9 nether cultivators fighting over the spiritual beasts. But I didn't expect that we didn't meet anything this time. Hee, that's a little less. Some of the third stage realm spiritual beasts are more valuable. Yi Kansheng was somewhat regretful. It was Sumo and Yu Wuji's first time here, but they knew a little about the situation. But along the way, there was nothing. Along the way, they passed by a few villages and towns, but they were also completely empty. Could it be that we're behind some big team? Yu Wuji asked. They've looted everything along the way. In theory, it's not impossible. Yi Kansheng frowned. But the probability is very small. Don't think that we all came from the ancient coin mystic realm, but we will be separated into different areas of the mystic realm. It should be said that the tide was a magical teleportation, even if there are other monks like us nearby. However, we didn't delay at all. If they harvested everything along the way, wouldn't that be too fast? Sumo and Yu Wuji nodded, feeling that what Yi Kansheng said made sense. Putting aside whether it was fast or not, even if it was killing spirit beasts, it was impossible to do it silently. There were no signs of fighting in the area they passed. The places they passed by didn't seem to have been looted. It was more like an organized, planned evacuation. Thus, no one spoke a word along the way. They flew for more than 3,000 miles in the mystic realm. Later on, they saw a few strange beasts, but those beasts' levels weren't high, and they were further away, so they didn't bother to collect them. After all, there should be better existences in the second-tier mystic realm. Between the third-tier mystic realm and the second-tier mystic realm, there was a natural chasm called the dragon-trapping abyss. It was said that the dragon-trapping abyss was unfathomable, and there were many mystic realm evil dragons, comparable to late-stage deity tribulation great cultivators. Moreover, the dragon-trapping abyss was circular, which meant that it was the only way from the third to the second-tier realm. This dragon-trapping abyss had blocked countless 9 nether cultivators. That year, Yi Kansheng entered the ancient coin mystic realm with his spirit transformation great circle body, but in the end he didn't dare to cross the dragon-trapping abyss. The dragon-trapping abyss, the spirit transformation great circle, could not cross. This was common knowledge in the ancient coin mystic realm. In other words, unless someone led them, the spirit transformation realm cultivators could only hunt in the third-tier realm. Spirit transformation realm cultivators didn't have the qualifications to enter the second-tier realm. At this moment, Yi Kansheng, Yu Wuji, and Sumo were already standing at the edge of the third-tier realm, and in front of them was the dragon-trapping abyss. The layers of fog were unfathomable. The ancient coin's map was marked. Dragon-trapping abyss spanned 100 miles. My divine sense can't detect the other side. This fog in the dragon-trapping abyss can absorb divine sense. Yu Wuji said, That's right. Yi Kansheng nodded. The dragon-trapping abyss can not only absorb divine sense, but it also contains illusions. I heard that there was once a deity tribulation cultivator who was trapped in the sea of fog for 1,000 years because his boat was overturned and he died of exhaustion. So powerful? Sumo raised her eyebrows. Hee hee, of course. Otherwise, wouldn't everyone be able to enter the second-tier mystic realm? Yi Qianxing said. Just as they were talking, not far away, 7 cultivators directly rushed into the sea of fog. Under their feet, there was a small boat. That was the tide-breaking boat that Sumo also bought. Yi Qianxing flipped his hand, and a tide-breaking boat appeared in front of him. You guys are prepared too, right? Yi Qianxing asked. Sumo and Yu Wuji nodded, and each took out their tide-breaking boats. However, Sumo had some doubts. Could they cross the dragon-trapping abyss with just the tide-breaking boat? Yi Qianxing saw the doubt in Sumo's eyes. The tide-breaking boat is just a special flying instrument. Actually, to cross the dragon-trapping abyss, one must have the deity tribulation energy to protect himself. Yi Qianxing looked at Yu Wuji and said, Miss Yu, in a while, the 3 boats will enter one after another. I'll be in front, you behind, and Brother Su in the middle. In this way, we can use the deity tribulation energy to protect him. Sure. Yu Wuji nodded in agreement. If we meet an evil dragon on the way, I'll take action. Within 2, you don't have to do anything. Yi Qianxing reminded again. If we meet a dragon tide, we just need to cross the dragon-trapping abyss. There's no need to fight. At this crucial moment, you don't have to worry about me. I should have the ability to protect myself. Sumo said, That's even better. Yi Qianxing smiled knowingly, because he knew that Sumo was definitely not a simple early-stage soul transformation cultivator. No matter who the reincarnator of the 3 realms was, how could he be ordinary? As the 3 of them spoke, more 9 underworld's cultivators rushed into the mist one after another. It seemed that there were many cultivators who entered the second stage this time. Get ready. Yi Qianxing said, Let's go. Sumo and Yu Wuji nodded. Whoosh! The 3 of them boarded the boat at the same time, and then formed a straight line, heading straight for the sea of mist. Yi Qianxing was in front and put up a defense. Actually, this defense was enough to cover 3 small boats. And Yu Wuji also put up a defense, and under Yi Qianxing's defense, there was another one. Double protection. Sumo, on the other hand, was happy to be in the middle. The 3 tide-breaking boats were not slow. However, in the thick mist, the visibility was extremely low, and their divine senses could only spread out for a few miles. Therefore, the dragon-trapping abyss was not easy to pass. Yi Qianxing stood at the bow of the boat, completely focused. Because in the mist, evil dragons could appear at any time. He only hoped that they would not meet the legendary dragon tide. That would be more troublesome. Roar, whoosh, the 3 of them were thinking about this problem. Suddenly, a loud roar came from the void, and then a bloody mouth came down from the sky, heading straight for the 3 of them. Chapter 413. Evil Dragon. Sumo raised her eyebrows. She felt that the 3 of them had just entered the fog for a few miles, and they were already attacked by an evil dragon. Ancient money evil dragon, a spirit beast in the middle stage of deity tribulation, but its battle power was comparable to a late-stage deity tribulation cultivator. These evil dragons were trapped in the dragon abyss for life and could not leave, so they were extremely violent. On normal days, they even killed and devoured each other. To cross the dragon abyss, one would definitely encounter evil dragons. It was just a matter of how many. If one met 1 or 2 evil dragons in 100 miles, it was considered lucky. If one met more, it was bad luck or even a disaster. What the 9 nether cultivators feared the most was encountering a dragon tide. If more than 10 evil dragons appeared at the same time, it was almost impossible to cross the abyss without a dead cultivator guarding it. From the 3rd stage to the 2nd stage, it was a gamble in itself. Whoosh, roar. At this moment, the evil dragon stretched out its bloody mouth from the fog, about 30 to 40 feet wide, saliva dripping down. The dragon whiskers were like whips, and the dragon teeth were like swords. A fishy smell assailed the nostrils, and the wind was not friendly. Sumo and Yuwuji did not move, because Yi Qiansheng had instructed them just now. 1 or 2 evil dragons did not require them to do anything. Swish! Looking again, Yi Qiansheng instantly rose into the air, and a long sword appeared in his hand. That long sword was completely black, as if it was dyed with ink. The sword ray was several feet long, just like black lightning. Puff! Yi Qiansheng's speed was extremely fast. That immortal sword directly pierced through the evil dragon's lower jaw, and then flicked upwards, directly cutting open the evil dragon's mouth. Neat and tidy. Blood splattered. However, the evil dragon only felt pain and did not retreat. Instead, it was enraged. Roar! The dragon shook its head, and the dragon straightened its body, revealing half of its body in the fog. The gray dragon body shone with light. That evil dragon was actually still rushing forward. Yi Qiansheng could not help but raise his eyebrows. Evil creature, courting death. Saying that, Yi Qiansheng patted his storage bag, and a dazzling brilliance flew out. That brilliance formed a circle like a giant flywheel. Neither Sumo nor Yuwuji saw clearly what kind of magic weapon it was. Chi-Chi, wherever the light passed, it actually cut off the dragon's head. At the same time, 3 small boats sped past. The dragon's corpse fell directly into the abyss. The few moves just now were all in the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint. Yi Qiansheng's sword and magic treasures were both swift and decisive. However, the slightest mistake would be extremely dangerous. After all, this was the trapped dragon abyss. No one knew how many evil dragons were hiding in the abyss. Sumo praised inwardly. Yi Qiansheng is definitely a top-notch existence among cultivators of the same level. Sumo even doubted whether Yi Qiansheng was a late-stage deity tribulation cultivator. Speed up! Yi Qiansheng retracted his magic weapon and shouted. The 3 of them activated the tide-breaking boat at the same time and rushed to the other side. That was because killing an evil dragon was likely to attract its companions nearby. Once a dragon tide broke out, it would be troublesome. Yi Qiansheng and Yuwuji, 2 deity tribulation cultivators, might not be able to kill their way out. The heavy fog roiled unceasingly. It really was like a wave. Yi Qiansheng did not retract his sword. He held his sword and stood in front of the boat, watching everything with vigilance. Fortunately, after rushing for dozens of miles, they did not encounter another evil dragon. In less than 30 miles, we will reach the other side. Yuwuji said. Yes. Yi Qiansheng also nodded. Victory was in sight. Roar, roar. At this moment, a long roar came from behind them. It was another evil dragon. Yi Qiansheng didn't say anything else and flew up again. This time, he did not use his sword, but a flywheel magic weapon. Chi. The flywheel magic weapon was indeed powerful. It killed the evil dragon again. However, another roar came from the left. Another evil dragon suddenly pounced. Not good. Yi Qiansheng frowned. At this moment, the flywheel magic weapon had not been retracted. Yi Qiansheng could only raise his sword. Whoosh! The 3rd evil dragon seemed to know how powerful Yi Qiansheng was. It did not directly expose its weak spot to Yi Qiansheng. Instead, it stretched out a dragon claw. Evil dragons were deity tribulation level spirit beasts. The dragon claw was like a hook, extremely sharp. Clank! Yi Qiansheng's sword clashed with the evil dragon's claw. Sparks flew. The evil dragon was not weak. It swept its claw and tried to push Yi Qiansheng's sword away. However, Yi Qiansheng did not give it the chance. The flywheel magic weapon had already flown back. Puff! The 3rd evil dragon's head was also cut off. Roar! Roar! However, several roars suddenly came from the surrounding fog. Dragon tide. Yi Qiansheng's expression suddenly changed. Miss you, let's rush out. Yi Qiansheng did not call Sumo, because a soul transformation cultivator was almost negligible in the dragon-trapping abyss. At the crucial moment, it was already fortunate that Sumo did not drag them down. Boom! As soon as Yi Qiansheng's voice fell, for the 5 evil dragons appeared in the void. In the fog, those evil dragons were like gods, baring their fangs and brandishing their claws. The roars outside grew louder and louder. What they were afraid of came. Sumo's group of 3 actually encountered a dragon tide that had not been seen in 100 years. Such a dragon tide provided more opportunities for other cultivators to cross the abyss. Sumo stood on the tide-breaking boat with a calm expression, because he was in the middle stage of the undead realm. In his tattered cloth bag, there was a soul-burying level puppet. At the crucial moment, as long as he made a move, everything would be solved. However, Sumo did not make a move immediately. Chi-Chi, Yi Sanqing's sword danced up and down. His flywheel magic treasure would slay evil dragons wherever it passed. Yu Wuji's blue dress fluttered, but she did not use her divine weapon. Instead, many white grains of sand gathered around her. The white sand was like a stream of water, extremely agile. They could transform into swords, halberds, and even giant axes. Moreover, the white sand was not only an attack, but also a perfect defense. Whether it was Sumo, Yi Kansheng, or Yu Wuji, they were all protected by the white sand. The evil dragons wanted to hurt them, but they could not break the white sand's protection. Endless cloud desert, invincible white sand, Sumo said in her heart. She had heard of Yu Wuji's spells in the 3 realms, but today was the first time she saw it. Endless cloud desert and white sand lived up to their reputation. At this time, Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji fulfilled their promise. The descendants of the 3 realms were all comrades. They did not have the slightest intention of abandoning Sumo. They tightly protected Sumo in the middle and fought the evil dragons with all their strength. The 2 of them were brave and invincible, but the evil dragons seemed to increase the more they killed. More than 10 evil dragons were slain by them into the abyss, but the surrounding evil dragons did not decrease at all. Instead, their roars shook the heaven and earth. The dense fog was like a rolling wave. This place seemed to have become the center of the entire trapped dragon abyss. Sumo slightly spread out her divine sense. She could sense that there were many evil dragons rushing over. At this time, Yi Sanqing's body was already covered in blood. Yu Wuji had the absolute protection of the white sand, and her blue dress was still the same. However, the white sand was turning red bit by bit. Their power was rapidly being consumed. Miss you, take Brother Su and leave first. I'll bring up the rear for you. Yi Kansheng shouted after killing a dragon. At the same time, he waved one hand. The flying wheel Dharma treasure shot out of the room. Follow it. Yi Kansheng wanted to break a bloody path for Sumo and Yu Wuji. At that moment, Sumo's heart warmed, and she raised her eyebrows at the same time. The descendants of the 3 realms were all comrades. Sumo was ready to attack. Chapter 414. The wheels opened a path, and the dragons on both sides retreated. In an instant, Yi Kansheng really did carve out a path for Sumo and Yu Wuji. However, neither of them chose to charge forward. You guys go first. Yu Wuji formed a seal with both hands. Looking at the fog again, endless white light lit up in an instant. The white light was as sharp as a blade, but it suddenly spread outwards. Chi-Chi, Chi-Chi, the light took form, then turned into a rain of swords. Bang, bang. Dozens of dragons were hit by the white light. The white light penetrated 3 to 4 feet deep into the dragon's skin, then suddenly exploded. In an instant, the flesh and blood of the dragons flew everywhere, howling endlessly. It was a type of indiscriminate attack. The 2 divinities unleashed their ultimate moves at the same time. The dragon tide finally slowed down. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the 3 tide-breaking boats charged forward for another 10 miles. In another 10 miles, they would reach the other side. Sumo had already raised her hand. As long as she patted her storage pouch, the puppets would fly out. In the current situation, there was no need for other puppets. The appearance of the ghostly shadow would solve all problems. Undead Realm Great Perfection Stage was an existence that could sweep away almost everything here. However, at this moment, In the depths of the dragon-trapping abyss, in the mist, a sudden explosion resounded. Boom! The mist billowed like the moving clouds. The earth quaked, the mountains shook, the valley echoed. What exactly happened in the depths of the dragon-trapping abyss? Roar! Roar! A dragon's roar shook the 9 heavens. That dragon's roar far surpassed the roars of the other dragons. All the evil dragons in the dragon tide froze. At this moment, almost all the cultivators in the dragon-trapping abyss also heard that dragon's roar. King! That was the roar and call of the Dragon King. That roar caused all the 9 nether cultivators' expressions to change. Dragon King, that was a legendary existence, a god-burying realm spirit beast. However, the Dragon King was said to be hiding in the depths of the dragon-trapping abyss, not moving for tens of thousands of years. Why would it roar at the sky today? Once the Dragon King was alarmed, none of the cultivators in the dragon-trapping abyss would be able to escape. Yi Sanqing's expression also changed. Sumo's pupil shrank. If the evil Dragon King really came out, then he would have to fight to the death. After all, it was a god-burying level spirit beast. However, the evil Dragon King did not make another sound after that. No one knew what it meant. Looking again, the evil dragons that had originally surrounded Sumo and the others turned around and ran straight into the depths of the fog. Yi Qiansheng was stunned. Yu Wuji didn't expect this either. Sumo was also a little confused. He gently put down his hand and smiled bitterly. Maybe their mother is calling them home for dinner. Huh? Yi Qiansheng was speechless. Yu Wuji chuckled. Let's go, Yi Qiansheng said. Then, the 3 tie-breaking boats shot toward the opposite shore like arrows. There were only a few dozen li left on the final journey. Without any obstacles, they arrived almost instantly. The tide-breaking boat finally landed in the second layer. Sumo and the others let out sighs of relief. Not far away, several cultivators flew out at the same time. Their expressions were also quite disheveled. They were a few deity tribulation cultivators. It seemed they had also encountered a dragon tide, or else they wouldn't be in such a state. The dragon roar just now had saved many cultivators. Yi Qiansheng brought Sumo and Yu Wuji to a large rock and adjusted their breathing. Sumo didn't expend much energy just now, but Yi Qiansheng and Yu Wuji had expended a lot of energy. The 2 of them meditated while Sumo was in charge of guarding them. An hour later, the blood on Yi Sanqing's body had been dried by her spirit energy. Yu Wuji's white sand also gradually lost its color and returned to its original appearance. Then, it was slowly returned to Yu Wuji's palm. That scene was quite shocking to Sumo. Yu Wuji's white sand was not stored in a storage bag or some kind of magical item, but hidden in his body. That was really incredible. At this moment, Yi Qiansheng took out the map and glanced at it. Let's go according to the marked place on the map first. 100 li away, there is a Mount Yiling. It is said that there are many rare treasures and spirit beasts in the mountain, and it is relatively safe. Let's go and have a look first, and also explore the second layer. What do you think? Sumo and Yu Wuji nodded. So, the 3 of them rode the wind and went straight to the Mount Yiling 100 li away. At this moment, in the depths of the mist of the dragon coiling abyss, the old man in white camel, was walking slowly with his body hunched. There was no magical item under his feet, but he walked on the tide as if he was walking on flat ground. And behind him, there was a giant dragon. That dragon was 100 zhang long, covered with golden scales and dazzling brilliance. It was completely different from the ordinary evil dragons because it was a king. However, at that moment, the Dragon King was like a tiny insect. In the fog, it was almost crawling forward. It drooped its head, lowered its whiskers, and carefully glanced at the old man in white from time to time. How was this a king? It was obviously an earthworm. But alas, there were hundreds of little worms following behind the king. All of them were crawling forward at a uniform speed. They were all evil dragons of the dragon-trapping abyss. There was no other way. Even the Dragon King, who didn't come out for 10,000 years, followed obediently. The other little dragons, who dared to be rash. Such a scene, if other 9 nether cultivators saw it, their jaws would probably drop. This was too shocking. What was the cultivation of that old man in white? At this moment, the white camel looked calm and at ease. The passage that the white camel was walking on seemed to be completely isolated. The other 9 nether cultivators could not see through the fog and see this scene. With a hunched body, walking slowly, the white camel finally reached the other side. The evil Dragon King's eyes were filled with anticipation. It hoped that the old man in white would leave soon. At this moment, the white camel stopped and turned around. Seeing this, the Dragon King hurriedly lowered its head. "Lord Dragon, you don't have to send us off anymore. Behave yourself in the future. When the 3 boats come back, they must be unimpeded. Understand?" The white camel's voice was slightly low. The Dragon King nodded repeatedly. "If there is any mistake, I will skin you, pull out your tendons, and destroy your entire clan." The Dragon King lowered its head even more in fear, but did not hear the old man in white speak again. When it quietly raised its head to take a peek, it discovered that the white-clothed, hunchbacked old man had long since disappeared. "Roar!" The Dragon King slowly straightened its body and let out a muffled roar. Then, it suddenly turned around, opened its giant mouth, and directly swallowed a great, evil dragon behind it. The entire group of dragons was trembling. The evil Dragon King's heart was full of frustration and anger. But the old man's methods were too powerful. It did not dare to act up in front of him. Mount Yiling was at the edge of the second stage of the ancient coin realm, but it was definitely a spirit mountain. The mountain was not tall, only a few hundred feet tall, but it was surrounded by purple mist and dense mist. It could be said that this was the inevitable choice for the cultivators of the netherworld to enter the second stage of the ancient coin realm, because there were many spirit herbs and divine medicines growing on this mountain, but not many evil beasts. The spirit beasts were relatively docile. Yi Kansheng, Sumo, and Yu Wuji went straight to Mount Yiling, but they stopped a few miles away from Mount Yiling. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji looked at each other, because there was a strong smell of blood coming from Mount Yiling. Of course, Sumo sensed it too, so he patted his storage bag, and the little white pig jumped out, then turned into a white light and went straight to Mount Yiling. Chapter 415. Dracophant Soul-Devouring Beast. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji were slightly stunned. They did not expect Sumo to have such a spirit beast. That was the legendary 3 great divine beasts of the Pure Land. Although it was a cub, it was already rare enough. "Brother Su, you actually have such a powerful little fellow?" Yi Kansheng laughed. I got it by chance." Sumo did not explain further. "Just now, it was all thanks to the 2 of you protecting me. Now it's time for me to do my best. There seems to be something strange outside of Mount Yiling." After the battle, just now, the relationship between the 3 of them had become much closer. With that, the 3 of them sped up and arrived outside of Mount Yiling in a moment. At this moment, the little white pig was hovering in the air, looking at the corpses scattered outside of Mount Yiling. There were a total of 7 corpses, 5 men and 2 women, all of them cultivators in black. 3 of them had perfected soul transformation realm, and 4 of them were mid-stage deity tribulation realm. This should be considered a considerable force to enter the arcane realm. The little white pig swooped down, picked up a small black token with its mouth, and sent it to Sumo's hand. On the token, there were 5 ancient words, "Undead of 9 Nether." Sumo frowned. This was exactly the same as the token on the 3 cultivators in black who came to kill her. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji naturally saw it as well. "The undead." Yi Kansheng sneered. "The slaughter between the 9 underworld's cultivators has begun just like that. Brother Yi, you also know about the matter between the undead and the guiltless faction?" Sumo asked. "In 9 Nether, it's considered an open secret. Who doesn't know? Every time the tide starts, it's actually a slaughter," Yi Kansheng said, then turned to look at Yu Wuji with a faint smile. "Miss you, which faction are you leaning towards?" "Brother Yi, don't you want to leave 9 Nether?" Yu Wuji asked Yi Kansheng. Oh, Yi Kansheng didn't expect that Yu Wuji would be so direct. He couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. Then, he said with a smile, "How can the netherworld realm compare to the Milky Way?" Yi Sanqing's words made Su Mo's heart tremble. Hee hee. Yu Wuji laughed. "So, of course, I hope that the sinless faction succeeds. Brother Yi, I'm afraid it's the same, right? The nine underworlds is a cage." Yi Kansheng looked at Sumo. "One day, when we break through the nine nether, we will be able to know more and understand more. The descendants of the three realms do not belong to any faction, but at critical moments, we should make our own choices." His words were filled with deep meaning. Hearing this, Sumo could only nod slightly. His understanding of the nine nethers was mainly from Li Beihin's introduction. However, from the looks of it, the situation in the nine hells might be even more complicated than Li Beihan had said. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji might not belong to any faction, but they supported the sinless faction in their hearts, because they both had the dream of the three realms. Actually, Sumo also had it, but his memory hadn't recovered completely. He still didn't know what had happened after the battle in the Brahma Temple. Would there be other reincarnators of the three realms in the vast nine underworlds? What kind of power was behind the sinless faction? Various thoughts swirled in his heart. Although Sumo had some thoughts in his heart, he didn't show it on his face. Oomph. At this moment, the little white pig snorted at Mount Yiling. It was hinting that there were still people on the mountain. Sure enough, Sumo and the others raised their heads to look. They saw three figures suddenly rushing up from the top of Mount Yiling. A black-clothed cultivator against two gray-clothed devil-masked men. All three of them were at the peak of the deity tribulation realm. At this moment, the black-clothed cultivator couldn't hold on for much longer. His body was full of bloodstains. Ink Soul Tower. Sumo frowned. "Brother Su, you've dealt with the Ink Soul Tower before?" Yi Kansheng asked. "Huh." Sumo sneered. "I've dealt with them before. They once sent people to kill me. Unfortunately, they didn't succeed." "Huh." Yi Kansheng glanced at Sumo with admiration. "There aren't many people in the nine underworlds who can escape from the Ink Soul Tower. If I'm not wrong, these 7 undead must have been killed by the people of the Ink Soul Tower." Ink Soul Tower, for the sake of business, they really stop at nothing. Yu Wuji sneered. "Sooner or later, they'll lose their value. No matter if it's the undead or the sinless faction, they'll find them to settle the score." "Ha!" Yi Kansheng sneered. Obviously, he agreed with Yu Wuji's words. And at this time, the black-robe cultivators were already showing signs of defeat. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji glanced at each other. Whoosh! The two of them seemed to have a tacit understanding and attacked at almost the same time. Yi Sanqing's sword directly pierced through the immortal heart of one of the gray-robed cultivators. Yu Wuji's white sand directly wrapped the other gray-robed cultivator within. The white sand instantly began to compress. Yi Kansheng was at the late stage of the deity tribulation realm, while Yu Wuji was at the great circle of the deity tribulation realm. It was naturally easy for them to sneak attack two late-stage deity tribulation realm cultivators who had already consumed a lot of energy and were fighting. In fact, this kind of situation where the sandpiper and the clam fought and the fisherman reaped the benefits often happened in the ancient coin mystic realm. They just happened to be here. Sumo was slightly stunned at first, but then the corners of her mouth curled up. Sumo would absolutely not reject this kind of killing and robbing, reaping the benefits without doing anything. To become a king who didn't step on white bones. In the immortal cave at the graceful cliff, wasn't the Xiao Luo in Mu Jinghong's painting stepping on endless white bones? Sumo didn't reject killing people. In fact, he even felt a kind of pleasure after killing people. Besides, the black-robe cultivators were still alive, so what was the harm in killing them? Yi Kansheng was right. How could the netherworld realm be as bright as the galaxy? And this sentence was slowly being transformed into another voice in the depths of Sumo's soul. How could the Yizong world be as bright as the galaxy? Sumo still didn't know why the three realms were destroyed, but judging from the attitude of Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji, it might have something to do with the Yizong world. Of course, all of this was just Sumo's momentary thought. And just as he was about to make his move, the little white pig had already made his move. Oomph. The little white pig sensed Sumo's killing intent. Huff! The black-robed undead was already an arrow at the end of its flight, and couldn't escape from the little white pig, whose battle prowess was comparable to an undying realm expert. Its white fangs directly pierced through the immortal heart of the black-robed cultivator. Roar! The little white pig growled, and black energy curled around its fangs. The soul energy of the black-robed cultivator was instantly absorbed by the little white pig, turning him into a dried corpse. Sumo and the other two acted at the same time, instantly taking care of everything. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji waved their hands and directly split open the masks of the Black Spirit Pavilion's cultivators. However, they didn't recognize either of the two cultivators. Immediately, the storage bags of the two assassins of Black Spirit Pavilion became empty. Sumo also took out the storage bag of the undead. Yi Kansheng broke open the storage bags of the three late-stage deity tribulation realm experts. The storage bags of the three late-stage deity tribulation realm experts could be considered to have some things. Most likely, the things of the dead cultivators were also inside, but there wasn't anything special. According to the original agreement, the three of them should split the loot 50, 30, 20. However, at this time, Yuwuji suggested that the three of them should split the loot equally, because she could already see that none of them were simple. A cultivator with an undying realm spirit beast battle prowess was definitely not at the early stage soul transformation realm, and Yi Sanqing's battle prowess was probably not lower than hers. Yi Kansheng and Sumo both nodded and smiled, not objecting. The three of them didn't really care about this. This way, things would be easier to handle. The little white pig didn't stop. It lifted its nose and absorbed all the soul energy of those cultivators, then opened its mouth and directly breathed out raging fire, burning the corpses to destroy the evidence. However, at this time, there was an inexplicable murderous aura coming from the surroundings of Mount Yiling. The murderous aura surged like waves surrounding the mountain. Chapter 416. The murderous aura spread like a tide. Sumo, Yi Kansheng, and Yu Wuji were startled. Mount Yiling was only at the edge of the second stage. How could it have such a strong murderous aura? Let's go, Yi Kansheng said. The murderous aura was strange, but seemed like it was going to surround the mountain. The three of them naturally did not want to be trapped in a mountain. At this moment, dark clouds had already appeared in the void. They were real clouds, but they came in a strange way, as if someone was splashing ink in the sky. They appeared in an instant without any warning. The three of them and the pig soared into the sky and charged out of the mountain. However, as soon as they took flight, they attracted the change in the clouds. Crack! Boom! Several bolts of lightning struck at them from the sky. The lightning was like a knife with a hint of blood. Tribulation lightning? The three of them were startled. That was tribulation lightning? Could it be that some kind of spirit beast was undergoing tribulation on Mount Yiling, and they happened to be here? This was not good news. Mortal tribulation. It was a tribulation that would only appear in a hidden world. As the name suggested, it was a tribulation that would only appear when a cultivator stepped into the second stage of the immortal realm. Someone stepped into the god-burying realm from the undead realm. Yu Wuji frowned. They chose to undergo tribulation in the ancient coin arcane realm? That's a bit. The highest level of 9 Serenity's cultivators who could enter the ancient coin arcane realm was the undead realm. However, they would have already entered the first stage of the ancient coin arcane realm, but would undergo tribulation in the second stage of Mount Yiling. Moreover, once they successfully passed the tribulation and became a god-burying realm cultivator, they would immediately be transported out. Why bother? Undergoing tribulation here was more or less not worth it. If they wanted to undergo tribulation, they would not enter the ancient coin arcane realm. It's not a cultivator. It should be a spirit beast. Sumo frowned. There's an undead realm spirit beast inside Mount Yiling. Humph. The little white pig hummed and nodded. Its perceptive ability was even better than Sumo's. Boom! Bang! At the same time, the three of them cast their own spells to resist the tribulation lightning. Fortunately, those were only the first few bolts of tribulation lightning, so they weren't very overbearing. Most importantly, none of them were tribulation transcenders. As long as they did not interfere with the tribulation lightning would not find them. A spirit beast has been born on Mount Yiling, Yi Qiansheng said. At the same time, his soul inexplicably shook. It was a wonderful feeling. We can't get out. Sumo looked at the sky. At this moment, dark clouds covered the sky, and a faint blood-red light could be seen. The area around Mount Yiling was shrouded. That was the mortal tribulation thunder, an existence that could kill undead realm experts. Even if Sumo had the confidence to break out, there was no need for her to do so. The target of the tribulation lightning wasn't them. As long as they didn't force their way through and didn't destroy this tribulation, they would be able to survive. In theory, they would be safe. They could wait for everything to pass before making their plans. Thus, the three of them landed in the void and looked up at a colonel. The little white pig landed on Sumo's shoulder excitedly. Thunder rumbled in the void, but in the eyes of the little white pig, it was like a New Year's salute. It could sense that there was a big guy stirring in the depths of Mount Yiling. As a divine beast, little white felt the same, so was extremely excited. Tribulation transcendence was such a fun thing. The little white pig hoped that its mortal tribulation would come sooner. Everything in the void was getting more and more intense. Dark clouds rolled, lightning flashed, and thunder rumbled. Everything was almost ready. Sumo and the other two tried to withdraw their divine senses to avoid being accidentally injured by the tribulation lightning. The tribulation lightning was divided into 9 stages. The 9th stage of tribulation lightning could kill an undead realm expert. They naturally had to be careful. At this moment, Sumo and the others were very curious about what kind of spirit beast was undergoing tribulation. At the same time, outside of Mount Yiling, there were actually many cultivators watching. The tribulation on Mount Yiling this time attracted many 9 nether cultivators. White Camel, who was dressed in white, stood in an inconspicuous corner, squinting at everything. He was an old man in the early stage of deity tribulation, so almost no one paid attention to him. The opening of the tide this time seems a little different. There's actually a spirit beast undergoing tribulation. White Camel muttered to himself. Then he looked up at the sky. What was reflected in his eyes was not the thick, dark clouds, but a white light. White Camel seemed to be able to see through the layers of tribulation clouds. Tianfu City, how is it going? White Camel asked in his heart. Boom, crack, boom, thunder rumbled. The first stage of tribulation lightning had already begun to fall. The bolts of tribulation lightning, with a faint red glow, fell from the sky like swords and sabers. They were all concentrated on the depths of Mount Yiling. Oh, quack, squeak, swoosh. There were hundreds of beasts and birds on Mount Yiling. At this time, they were all using their abilities to escape so as not to be affected. This benefited some of the cultivators who were still on Mount Yiling. Apart from Sumo's group of 3, there were other cultivators on Mount Yiling. Along the way, many spirit beasts and birds were also captured by them. Sumo, Yi Qiansheng, and Yu Wuji basically didn't make any big movements. However, Little White Pig took the opportunity to get a lot of food. The little fellow didn't avoid meat or vegetables and ate almost everything it could eat. For a moment, no spirit beasts escaped from Sumo's group. Boom, boom. The first stage of tribulation, lightning exploded in the depths of Mount Yiling, causing the earth to tremble slightly. However, apart from the tribulation lightning and the various fleeing beasts, there were no other unusual movements. In other words, the spirit beast that was undergoing tribulation almost effortlessly endured the first stage of tribulation lightning. Sumo and the others weren't surprised by this situation. There were 9 stages of tribulation lightning, and the power of each stage was doubled. If the one undergoing tribulation couldn't handle the first stage of tribulation lightning as if it was light, then what was the point of passing the tribulation? Boom, crackle, boom. In the void, electric arcs flashed as if lightning was constantly merging in the void. Boom! The second stage of tribulation, lightning fell. Compared to the first, it was blood red in color and more concentrated. The electric arcs flashed, illuminating the entire Mount Yiling. However, there was still no movement in the depths of Mount Yiling. The lightning bolts were scattered after they struck. However, no one could see clearly what was undergoing tribulation. The third, fourth, and fifth stages of tribulation, lightning fell in succession. Each one was faster, stronger, and more powerful than the first. The fifth stage of tribulation, lightning, had completely turned blood red. In the void, red clouds surged like waves of blood. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, as if the heavens were punishing it. Boom! Crack! The sixth stage of tribulation, lightning, had transformed into a great river that poured down in torrents. At this time, whether it was inside or outside the mountain, all the cultivators held their breath and stared intently. They understood that this tribulation had reached a critical juncture. The first 5 stages of tribulation, lightning, were easily resolved by the one undergoing tribulation. This 6th stage of tribulation, lightning, contained endless, undying chi. 3 of such lightning bolts were enough to kill an early, undying cultivator. Boom! Crack! Bang! In the depths of Mount Yiling, a mountain gate was directly split open by the tribulation lightning. Half of the mountain peak collapsed. Roar! Finally, a dull roar came from the depths of the mountain. That roar sounded like a dragon, but not a dragon, like a beast, but not a beast. Sumo and Yi Wuji were calm, but Yi Sanqing's expression slightly changed. Chapter 417. Roar. Only after 6 waves of tribulation, lightning, did the object of the tribulation finally respond. That low growl sounded a little lazy and even a little grumbling. It was as if the tribulation lightning had disturbed its sweet dreams. Roar. Following this growl, a beam of black profound light rose from the depths of the valley. The black light rushed toward the layers of tribulation clouds in the sky. Counterattack. This was something that the spectating cultivators did not expect. Under normal circumstances, it would be impressive if one could withstand 9 waves of tribulation lightning. Few cultivators or spiritual creatures could fight back against the tribulation clouds. However, it was obvious that the creature that was undergoing tribulation today was an extremely domineering existence. The tribulation lightning had disturbed its sweet dreams. Of course, it was going to disperse the tribulation lightning. Rumble. The black light that rushed upward collided with the 7th wave of tribulation lightning that was about to descend. In an instant, the 2 forces collided and formed a ring in the sky that spread outward. Red and black each occupied half of the world. They were almost evenly matched. The 7th wave of tribulation lightning was dispersed by the creature that was undergoing tribulation. However, it did not move the tribulation clouds in the sky. Even so, the cultivators inside and outside Mount Yiling were extremely shocked. That was because many cultivators who were undergoing tribulation would already show signs of defeat when they faced the 7th wave of tribulation lightning. Roar. The spirit beast on Mount Yiling roared. However, this time, it was not a grunt but a low growl. Just now, his ultimate move had actually been ineffective. The spirit beast was a little annoyed. The tribulation clouds in the sky were pressing down layer by layer. That feeling was indeed unpleasant. What a powerful spirit beast. Yu Wuji said, "Umph, umph." The little white pig nodded excitedly when it heard what Yu Wuji said. At the same time, it roared toward the depths of Mount Yiling. She looked so adorable that it was obvious that she was cheering them on. It did not mind if things got out of hand. Could it be that the one undergoing tribulation this time is also a pig? Sumo smiled bitterly to herself. It seems that the spirit beast that is undergoing tribulation has made the little white pig very happy. At this moment, Yi Sanqing's expression became even more solemn, because the feeling in his heart was getting stronger and stronger. Roar, roar. The spirit beasts in the deep mountains roared incessantly. The whole of Mount Yiling was buzzing with echoes. High up in the sky, the eighth wave of tribulation lightning did not immediately descend. The wind and clouds surged and gradually changed color. The lightning in the void had already drawn a purple arc. The entire void began to glow with purple light. The eighth wave of tribulation lightning had undergone a qualitative change. Chi-chi, chi-chi. In the void, purple arcs of lightning shuttled back and forth like purple dragons. The purple dragons were gathering at the top of Mount Yiling. The purple dragons connected with each other and gradually fused together. Woo! High up in the sky, an incomparably large purple lightning dragon was finally formed. The dragon was vivid and lifelike, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws as it circled high in the sky. Calamity Dragon. The cultivators inside and outside Mount Yiling were shocked, because according to the legends, this was a situation that would only appear in the ninth wave of tribulation lightning. It seemed that the spirit beast that was undergoing tribulation today had angered heaven and earth. Otherwise, the Calamity Dragon wouldn't have appeared in the eighth wave. Woo! Roar! The purple Calamity Dragon circled high in the sky and roared like a real dragon. What a powerful tribulation lightning! Sumo thought. The soul burial realm was equivalent to the arcane immortal realm in the three realms. Going from a true immortal to an arcane immortal was a huge leap. How could a tribulation lightning that could kill a true immortal be ordinary? The Xiao Luo, in Sumo's memory, was only a cultivator of the three realms water tribulation. Back then, if she didn't use treasures like the demon bell, she definitely wouldn't have been able to withstand the tribulation lightning. Even now, she could only use puppets to resist it. Whoosh! Roar! The eighth wave of tribulation lightning finally descended. It was a giant purple dragon that swooped down, its might intending to flatten Mount Yiling. Sumo, Yi Kansheng, and Yu Wuji naturally formed a line of defense, because the tribulation lightning's power was too great. Boom! The giant purple dragon tore through space and headed straight for Mount Yiling. Boom! Boom! Crack! Something seemed to be wriggling deep inside Mount Yiling as several mountains collapsed. Thousands of rocks flew like meteors. At that moment, the entire Mount Yiling was being destroyed. A black mass seemed to have crawled out from the ground. Whoosh! Roar! Its momentum was no less than the eighth wave of tribulation lightning. At the same time, a giant black tail rose from the ground, sweeping up countless rocks and lashing at the purple dragon in the sky. Boom! Rumble! The purple dragon and the giant tail collided, once again causing a huge wave of spiritual energy between heaven and earth. It was like a collision between heaven and earth, with no clear winner. The purple dragon was scattered in the sky, but the giant tail also emitted an endless amount of bloody light. Blood rained down from the sky, creating a sea of red. Roar! 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 The spirit beast inside Mount Yiling was furious. It had never suffered such a loss in its tens of thousands of years. It was already furious. Therefore, it once again switched from defense to offense, not hesitating to fight. At this point, Mount Yiling no longer needed to exist. The beast growled, then began its real attack. Pa! Pa! The giant tail swept across, bringing with it a rain of blood. The tallest mountains of Mount Yiling were directly cut in half. These mountains were its burden. Rocks flew everywhere. Smoke and dust rose everywhere. Heaven and earth shook. The entire Mount Yiling began to collapse from the inside out. At that moment, Sumo and the others could already see the ground under their feet cracking like a spider web. A spirit beast was born. Sumo raised an eyebrow. This spirit beast was definitely not simple. Humph, 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 humph. The little white pig became even more excited, humming incessantly. Yu Wuji's face was covered by a blue veil. Only a pair of beautiful eyes could be seen, but her expression was still calm. However, Yi Kenshin was completely different now. His eyes were faintly glowing red. He clenched his fists. His knuckles were slightly white. Brother Yi? Sumo was a little puzzled. However, Yi Kenshin turned a deaf ear to Sumo's call. At that moment, Yi Qiansheng was completely immersed in his own world, because that was his spirit beast. Roar, boom. The entire Mount Yiling area was completely shattered. Sumo, Yi Qiansheng, and Yu Wuji had already soared into the sky. The ground under their feet had already collapsed, surging black water. At the moment when the mountain collapsed, a black spirit beast slowly crawled out from the ground. It had a dragon head, a turtle body, and a snake tail. The beast was hundreds of feet in size, and its shell was full of ancient runes. Its body was surrounded by a faint black fog. Then it crawled out from the bottom of Mount Yiling. Roar, roar! It roared to the sky. What kind of spirit beast was that? Sumo did not know. Black tortoise? Yu Wuji was shocked. Then she turned to look at Yi Qiansheng. Her eyes lit up. You are Yi Xingbai. Ha ha ha. The black tortoise appeared. Yi Qiansheng suddenly laughed to the sky, but at the end of the laughter, there was a faint sound of crying. He thought it was dead. Azura, Demon Continent, Black Tortoise Pavilion's pavilion master, Yi Xingbai, down in the world, came back through reincarnation. Yi Qiansheng sometimes almost forgot who he was, but there were still people who remembered him. Yi Xingbai was a direct disciple of Muyun Villa. Boom, boom. Right at that moment, an imposing voice boomed out from the sky. The voice was like that of a god. How could an evil spirit of the three realms come back from the dead? Die! Chapter 4:18. Destroy. That sound echoed throughout the second layer of the ancient coin realm. All the 9 nether cultivators were shocked. Whose voice was that? Was it the ruler of the ancient coin realm? Were there really cultivators in the ancient coin realm? However, none of the 9 nether cultivators had ever seen anyone from the 9 nether secret realm. It was their first time hearing that voice. At that moment, the tribulation cloud in the void turned completely purple with the sound of annihilation. It could be said that the entire second layer of the ancient coin realm had become a purple space. The black tortoise's tribulation had caused a change in time and space. Yi Qiansheng once said that in the ancient coin realm, one step could change the world. Now, a similar change was happening in the second layer. Purple chi surged from all directions and rose into the sky. The 9th wave of tribulation lightning had yet to strike. It was constantly brewing, as if it wanted to gather the power of the entire second layer to destroy the black tortoise. The wind blew and the clouds moved, but it only took an instant. Roar! By now, Yiling Shan's face had changed beyond recognition. The entire Mount Yiling seemed to have existed because of the black tortoise's slumber. Mountains collapsed, and all living things trembled. Dozens of kilometers around Leaf Spirit Mountain had become a battlefield for tribulation transcendence. Everything here would be destroyed. Other than Sumo and the rest, there were more than 10 cultivators in Mount Yiling. At this moment, the cultivators were also staring blankly at the scene before them. This was no longer an ordinary tribulation. Who would walk out of Mount Yiling alive today? Unless the black tortoise succeeded. The black tortoise's body was as black as ink, dragging its tail out of the black water. Its movements seemed to contain the vicissitudes of life. It was a spiritual beast with an extraordinary origin. It even had an immortal body and could reincarnate again. In terms of time, it came from an extremely ancient past. Roar! The black tortoise raised its head and roared at the sky. Destroy who? I want to destroy you. Its expression was arrogant, domineering, and disdainful. What have I not seen? What is this bit of tribulation lightning? Oomph! The little white pig jumped and roared. Big black tortoise, go for it. Whoosh! Boom! At that moment, the 9th wave of tribulation lightning finally descended from the sky. This time, it was not a dragon, but a wave. It could even be said that it was an indiscriminate attack. The ruler of the ancient money mystic realm seemed to be willing to destroy everything. He wanted to destroy all living beings on Mount Yiling. The evil spirits of the 3 realms must not be allowed to exist. Woo-woo, squeak! Those low-rank spirit beasts could not resist at all. To them, this was an apocalyptic natural disaster. Roar! Only the black tortoise was unyielding. It roared at the sky and slowly turned its head to look in the direction of Yi Qiansheng. Its eyes were already blood red. That was the color of the black tortoise's eyes, but at this moment, the color of Yi Qiansheng's eyes was exactly the same as the black tortoise's eyes. Roar! The black turtle roared at Yi Qiansheng. It was a kind of calling, a kind of expectation. It seemed to have been waiting for him to appear, and he had finally arrived. After reincarnating, neither of them had forgotten each other. How could the Black Turtle Pavilion Master not have a black turtle? Whoosh! The purple tide came up, pouring down 1,000 miles. But the black turtle's huge tail swung fiercely, like a big black broom, sweeping the first wave of purple light back to the sky. Boom! Crack! Paying someone back in their own coin. The sky filled with purple light affected the entire second stage. The sky and earth were shaking. Ha ha! Yi Qiansheng laughed wildly, his long hair flying. At that moment, it was as if the Black Turtle Pavilion Master had returned to the mortal world. He could not sit back and watch the black turtle resist the heavenly tribulation. Flying up, Yi Qiansheng had already landed on the back of the black turtle. That was originally his position. He was just returning. Roar, roar. With its master back, the black turtle roared. At the same time, the black tortoise opened its mouth and a ray of black light shot out, landing directly in Yi Qiansheng's hand. At that moment, the expression in Yi Qiansheng's eyes suddenly changed. There was a light in his eyes, a light that once belonged to the Black Turtle Pavilion Master. Whoosh! With the black light in his hand, Yi Qiansheng raised his eyebrows. A surge of energy was instantly generated in his body. Crackle! Crackle! Yi Qiansheng's arm shook. His hands seemed to be holding a black lightning. Mara, star-studded whip. Yu Wuji exclaimed. Mara, star-studded whip. Devil Continent's Azura World Muyun Villa's revered level weapon. It was actually in the black turtle's body. Not to mention Yu Wuji, even Yi Qiansheng himself did not expect it. When the three realms were destroyed, Yi Xingbai was just a speck of dust. He did not know where everything had gone. Mara's star-studded whip could drive the sun and moon. Yi Qiansheng's temperament instantly changed. Moreover, his cultivation base was also changing. The immortal qi dispersed in an instant. Sumo did not know if Yi Qiansheng had been hiding his cultivation, or if he had obtained new power from the Mara star-studded whip. There was a faint purple light between his eyebrows, but it was not obvious at this moment. In fact, it was a kind of mark of Muyun's bloodline. However, the power in Yi Qiansheng's body had not been fully awakened. Nevertheless, this did not affect his cooperation with the Black Turtle to deal with this heavenly tribulation. Boom! Whoosh! The overwhelming purple light fell again. This time, it was even more powerful than the previous time. However, Yi Qiansheng looked at the tribulation clouds that filled the sky and couldn't help but curve the corner of his mouth coldly. Break! Yi Qiansheng threw his head back and roared. He swung the Mara star-studded whip in his hand. Endless black lightning broke through the void and instantly split into thousands of streaks. Sumo could not tell what kind of power was contained in the Mara star-studded whip. However, the power was very special. The purple light that filled the sky was instantly split apart and turned black. Roar! The black turtle shook its head and instantly soared into the sky. At that moment, it was as if a continent had risen and shrouded the sky. Whoosh! The black tortoise opened its mouth, and an endless suction force formed a huge vortex in the void. The purple light that was scattered by the Mara star-studded whip had turned into a black stream of water that poured into the vortex. The river returned to the sea like a whale, swallowing everything without any obstruction. It was devouring the heavenly tribulation. The scene left every cultivator who witnessed it in awe. To the black turtle, it was not a tribulation, but a great fortune. Everyone understood that the lightning tribulation contained an endless amount of power. The spiritual beast that resembled a dragon and a tortoise would most likely level up very quickly once it absorbed the power. The cultivators of the 9 serenities were shocked, and such a spirit beast had actually submitted to that ugly black-clothed cultivator. Yi Qiansheng was a stranger to the cultivators of the Nine Serenities. This was because Yi Qiansheng rarely interacted with the cultivators of the Nine Serenities. He had always been a loner. This time, he had coincidentally met Sumo and Yuwuji. He did not expect to encounter such a great fortune in the hidden realm of the ancient coin. Everything from his past life had returned. This caused the slightly dispirited Yi Qiansheng to slowly change. Restoring the three realms did not seem so far-fetched anymore. Roar! In an instant, the tribulation clouds in the sky dissipated. The dignified voice from before did not appear again. The black turtle had withstood the tribulation. Its cultivation level had instantly entered the god burial realm. The ancient coin's second-layer cultivation level gradually recovered. However, Mount Yiling no longer existed. Its surroundings were filled with ravines and ravines. It was a complete mess. 100 miles away, the white camel looked up at the sky and sneered. It seemed to be talking to himself, but also to someone else. What can you do to him? Hee hee. Chapter 419. In the second stage realm, the storm dispersed. However, many nine nether cultivators were still shaken. What happened just now was too shocking. Most of the nine nether cultivators who were stuck in the second stage realm were at the divine tribulation realm or early undying realm. Just now, it was a spirit beast at the perfect stage of the undying realm. A divine burial spirit beast. Many nine nether cultivators looked at the black tortoise in the void. It was like a small black mountain floating in the void. They couldn't help but feel fear. In the ancient money secret realm, life and death were up to fate. They didn't know who the master of the black tortoise was. Was it the sinless faction, the undying faction, or the carefree faction? Roar! The black tortoise roared at the sky, as if it was challenging the heavens. However, there was no response from the sky. The tribulation clouds dispersed. Everything seemed to be over. High up in the sky, that dignified voice of reproach seemed to have never appeared. High up in the sky, the gray mist was hazy. No one could see through it. Whoosh, whoosh, suddenly, a rather dramatic scene appeared. Just now, there were hundreds of nine nether cultivators watching the battle inside and outside Mount Yiling. However, when the tribulation clouds dispersed and the black tortoise roared, all of them flew away on the wind or magic treasures. Hee hee. Sumo and Yuwuji couldn't help but shake their heads and smile bitterly. It seemed that they were afraid of getting into trouble. Yi Sanqing's identity was unknown. In the ancient money secret realm, the strong preyed on the weak. If the black tortoise became angry, none of them would be able to leave. Therefore, it was better for them to leave first. Sumo and Yuwuji weren't worried. Firstly, they believed that Yi Qiansheng wouldn't harm them. Secondly, they had the confidence to deal with everything. In the void, Yi Qiansheng put away the Mara star-chasing whip and patted the black tortoise's shell. He sighed. It's been a long time, old friend. Woo-woo. The black tortoise shook its head and cried. Then its body rapidly shrank. In the end, the mountain-like black tortoise shrank to the size of a palm and landed on Yi Sanqing's palm. Yi Qiansheng floated to the ground and rubbed the black tortoise's back. His eyes were filled with endless emotion. Reincarnation and rebirth, lost and regained. Everything was just like a dream. Before entering the ancient money mystic realm, Yi Qiansheng would never have imagined that he would be able to obtain the ink turtle and the Mara star-chasing whip. Congratulations, Brother Yi. Reuniting with old friends and obtaining a divine weapon. It's truly a great fortuitous encounter. Sumo cupped her fists and said with a smile, Congratulations, Pavilion Master Yi. Yuwuji also congratulated. Yi Qiansheng was Yi Xingbai. There was no doubt about this. Therefore, Yuwuji addressed him as Pavilion Master Yi. Same to you, Yi Qiansheng said with a smile. It's mostly thanks to the two of you that I have such a fortuitous encounter. Back then, I thought everything was gone. When he finished speaking, Yi Qiansheng let out a long sigh, because he clearly remembered that the destruction of the three realms was unstoppable. In the face of the destruction of the Xing River, even the eternal realm cultivators were helpless like a speck of dust. Miss you, did you know me back then? Yi Kansheng asked Yu Wuji. I've never met you before. Yu Wuji smiled bitterly. In those days, the three realms were heavily fortified. I've never set foot in the Devil Continent's Azura world. Oh, miss you. Are you a cultivator from the Heaven Continent? Yi Kansheng asked. Ha. Yu Wuji shook his head and smiled, neither affirming nor denying. Pavilion Master Yi, when the time is right, you will know who I am. We actually have some connections. Oh, that's good. Yi Kansheng smiled. Miss you, please don't blame me. Today, I recovered the Black Tortoise, and I was a little impatient. I just want to reunite the three realms and return my Xing River. Yu Wuji said in a deep voice. Ha. Yi Kansheng smiled bitterly, but finally nodded. Yu Wuji shook her head gently again. Her eyes were a little misty. However, no one knew what kind of emotion it represented. Sumo didn't speak at the side, because his memory was incomplete. He didn't know anything about what happened to the three realms later. Therefore, silence was the best way to deal with everything. When the time was right, he was ready to ask Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji why the three realms were destroyed. Humph. At this time, the little white pig on Sumo's shoulder greeted the black tortoise in Yi Sanqing's hand. Unfortunately, the black tortoise gently lifted its eyelids, looked at the little white pig very indifferently, and then closed its eyes. The dragon elephant soul-devouring beast was indeed not ordinary. However, it was only one of the three divine beasts of the Pure Land. In the eyes of the divine black tortoise, the little white pig was just a little kid apart from its relatively pure bloodline. The little white pig was really not qualified to play with him. The black tortoise was a spirit beast from another world, reincarnated. Humph. When the little white pig saw the black tortoise's attitude, it felt very dissatisfied, but there was nothing it could do. I don't want to pay attention to a black tortoise. The little fellow simply turned around, its little butt facing the black tortoise. However, the black tortoise still didn't respond. It liked silence by nature. It wouldn't move if it could. That was the black tortoise's survival philosophy. Ha. Sumo smiled and patted the little white pig to comfort it, then looked at Yi Kansheng and said, Big brother Yi, what's our next step? Yi Kansheng pondered for a moment, then looked at Sumo and Yu Wuji and said, I won't hide it from the two of you. Now my combat power has greatly increased. With the black tortoise and the divine whip in hand, even if I face a cultivator in the undead realm, I won't be afraid. So, we can completely continue to go deeper. Enter the first level? Yu Wuji asked. Yes. Yi Kansheng looked at Yu Wuji and nodded. In the second level mystic realm, I can meet the black tortoise again. So, I keep feeling that this mystic realm is not ordinary. The various mystic realms of the nine nether might really be related to the three realms. Perhaps there's also a chance. How can the evil spirits of the three realms come back to life? Just now you heard Gao Tian's threat, right? Yu Wuji asked. Of course. Yi Kansheng raised his brows. Gods and ghosts. How can they be evil spirits? Yu Wuji sneered. Everything here must be related to the three realms. We don't know what lies behind this mystic realm. Since we are here and have the ability, we naturally have to explore to the end. Yi Kansheng nodded. He understood Yu Wuji's meaning. Brother Su, what do you think? Yi Kansheng looked at Sumo. Although Sumo's cultivation was still in the early stage of the soul transformation realm, Yi Kansheng understood that Sumo must have used a secret technique to suppress her cultivation. Otherwise, how can early-stage soul transformation realm cultivator watch everything so calmly? I am willing to risk my life to accompany you. Sumo smiled. Originally, he had the intention to enter the first-level realm, because the first-level realm was the core of the ancient money mystic realm. Now that Yi Kansheng suggested it, he naturally would not refuse. Yi Kansheng obtained the black tortoise. This was definitely not a coincidence. Sumo still believed in karma. At the same time, he felt that he would not return empty-handed. Good. Seeing that Sumo was willing to go, Yi Kansheng laughed brightly. Looks like the three realms are still straightforward. Then let's prepare to enter the ancient money's first-level realm. Humph humph. Little White Pig cheered when he heard that. The Black Tortoise didn't even raise its head. From afar, White Camel had been looking at the three of them and couldn't help but smile. The people of the three realms are indeed extraordinary. This old man will continue to accompany you. Chapter 420. No one knew how big the second stage of the ancient money mystic realm was. The map in the hands of Sumo and the rest only showed a portion of the second stage, and the deeper they went, the simpler it became. After Mount Yiling, they headed straight for Broken Bridge Valley. Broken Bridge Valley was a valley that was cut off from the middle. Between the two mountains, there was a stone bridge that looked like the moon, but it was cut off by a sharp weapon. This valley was originally frequented by some spirit beasts, but when Sumo and the rest passed by, there was nothing left. Yi Kansheng could only smile bitterly, because the Black Turtle's tribulation had alarmed the entire second stage. At this moment, when the Black Turtle's aura came, almost all the spirit beasts in the second stage retreated. So along the way, they did not meet with anything. Be it cultivators or spirit beasts, all of them retreated. Yuwuji found a few stalks of immortal herbs and elixirs in the Broken Bridge Valley. Other than that, Sumo and the rest had gained nothing. But they were not in a hurry. Everyone had their own fortuitous encounters, and no one knew what would appear in the next moment. The three of them crossed the broken bridge and went over a few mountains. At this moment, the map in their hands was completely useless. The map of the ancient money mystic realm ended here. There was a slight fog in front. From afar, the mountains were covered in layers, misty. Our adventure has really begun. Yi Kansheng smiled. Suemo and Yu Wuji both nodded. There was a trace of anticipation in their eyes. Although there were many Nine Nether cultivators who entered the ancient money mystic realm, but those who could explore the areas outside the map were probably less than a tenth, because it required absolute strength and courage. Yi Kansheng placed the black turtle in his hands in the air. In an instant, the black turtle grew to a size of 1 square foot and carried Yi Kansheng. Roar, the black turtle growled. That was a kind of satisfaction. Yi Sanqing's lips curled. The black turtle cabinet master, Yi Xingbai, was originally supposed to stand on top of the black turtle and roam the Devil Continent. His future was unpredictable, and Yi Kansheng had to be ready for battle at all times. Moreover, back then, Yi Xingbai could be said to be #1 in defense. Even if he challenged someone of a higher cultivation realm, he wouldn't lose. Yu Wuji also waved his hand. Her white sand appeared again, forming rings of light that looked like water wheels around her, and a wheel of white sand condensed under her feet. The clouds were boundless, and the white sand was invincible. As long as Sha Bujin was present, no one would be able to hurt Yu Wuji. Seeing that the two of them were ready, Sumo also prepared to take out her magic treasure to protect herself. Actually, he had a lotus platform that was enough to intimidate everything. But at that moment, the little white pig snorted coldly at the black turtle. Then, with a shake of its body, it instantly grew bigger. A 6-meter-tall Dracophant soul devouring beast appeared in midair. When the wings were spread, they were about 50 to 60 feet long. Roar! The big white pig bared its teeth at the black turtle and growled. The meaning was very simple. I can also become a mount. Don't think that you're the only one who can do it. Oh, hee. Sumo couldn't help but laugh when she saw that. Of course, he knew that the Dracophant soul-devouring beast could be used as a mount. Back then, crippled Longzi of 5 wheels rode a big white pig called the White Dragon Beast. That White Dragon Beast contained a trace of the Dracophant soul-devouring beast bloodline. However, Sumo's Dracophant soul-devouring beast usually appeared in the form of a little white pig and rarely transformed into other forms. Unexpectedly, this fellow actually took the initiative to transform into this mount form today. It seemed that this fellow was stimulated by the black turtle. Sumo smiled and nodded. He naturally wouldn't refuse such a good thing. Then, he moved and directly landed on the back of the Dracophant soul-devouring beast. Flat and soft, Sumo sat cross-legged, feeling very comfortable. It seemed that in the future, she really had to let the little white pig transform and grow. Roar, roar. The little white pig that had transformed into a big white pig roared softly again, and at the same time, it lightly flapped its wings. However, the black turtle's eyes were slightly closed, totally ignoring it. This made the little white pig rather depressed. Yi Qianxing looked at everything and couldn't help but smile. Everyone get ready, let's go. Yi Qianxing urged the black turtle to walk at the front. Sumo and Yuwuji stood on the two sides. The three of them maintained a distance of 7 to 8 feet and then moved forward. Without a map, they could only explore their way forward. The three of them had already spread out their divine sense. It could be said that the radius of 300 miles was covered by their divine sense. Once there was any movement, they would immediately discover it. The three of them were very cautious. They thought that they should have entered the hinterland of the second stage realm. At this moment, the entire mystic region's sky was getting darker, and there was a sense of death, as if night was about to fall. After walking for hundreds of miles, they still hadn't met any other 9 nether cultivators. However, at this moment, Sumo's brows were slightly furrowed, because this place actually gave him a somewhat familiar feeling, as if he had been here before. These were all Xiao Luo's memories. There are mountains and water ahead. Yi Qianxing stood on the black turtle and said, "Whoosh, whoosh." In just a moment, the sound of flowing water was heard. At the same time, they saw everything clearly. In front of them, there was indeed a river, flowing slowly. The water was not large. However, the color of the water was dim, and they couldn't see the bottom of the river. On the other side of the river, there was actually a monster that looked like a cow, but not a cow, and a horse, but not a horse, with a body of earthy yellow long hair, but without a tail, lowering its head to drink water. Moo, moo. The monster let out a sound similar to that of a cow. It raised its head and looked at Sumo and the others. Its eyes actually emitted 2 rays of faint blue light, and then it turned around and ran. Yellow Soul Beast. Sumo blurted out. Unfortunately, that little beast disappeared in an instant. Brother Su, do you know that spirit beast? Yi Qianxing asked. Yes. Sumo nodded. This little beast is called the Yellow Soul Beast. It is an existence of the 3 realms. Why would it also appear here? Yellow Soul Beast, drinking the spring of sorrow. Sumo muttered to himself, and then looked down at the river. Then this river is the spring of sorrow. This place is actually exactly the same as the desolate soul mystic realm. Sumo finally understood where that sense of familiarity came from. The hundreds of miles they had just walked was clearly the desolate soul mystic realm. However, there was no black illusion demon mountain here, nor was there anything from back then. In Xiao Luo's memories, the desolate soul mystic realm had long collapsed. Why would it appear here? However, to be precise, this was only a corner of the desolate soul mystic realm. Yi Qianxing and Yuwuji didn't know what Sumo was talking about. They had never been to the desolate soul mystic realm of the sea desolate divine region. What is the desolate soul mystic realm? Yi Qianxing asked. An ancient battlefield in the sea desolate divine region. However, it should have been completely destroyed back then. Sumo frowned. He didn't understand why the scene of the desolate soul mystic realm appeared in the ancient coin mystic realm. Could this place be the 3 realms? Back then, everything in the desolate soul mystic realm actually existed for the existence of the desolate soul beast. The final explosion had long destroyed everything. Sumo knew that AMU had finally gathered all the spirit beasts and should have awakened the desolate soul beast. The desolate soul beast should have belonged to AMU. However, Sumo also knew that in his tattered cloth bag, there was a desolate soul beast puppet from the purple-clothed resurrection puppet of the corpseless sect. That puppet was exactly the same as the desolate soul beast back then. Everything was very complicated. As the 3 spoke, they did not stop and kept going deeper. Whoosh, whoosh. The water flow became even more rapid. Black water. That's actually the Blackwater River. This time, it was Yuwuji who spoke. Sumo looked around, and her expression changed. Indeed, a large river flowed west. The color of the water was as black as ink. That was the desolate sea black water. Chapter 4:21. In the past, the three realms, the desolate sea, five regions. In the east was the eastern mountain range, in the west was the black water, in the south was the cloud desert, in the north was the northern wasteland, and in the middle was the vast green plains. Of course, Sumo and Yuwuji had seen the western Blackwater before. Especially Sumo, Blackwater had left a deep impression on him. Back then, there was a huge battle at the Holy Maiden ceremony of the Immortal Ghost sect. Xinyan's hair was as white as frost. She had fought to the death for AMU. She had said that she would rather have a beauty than the country. It was unknown how many people had shed tears. Meng Hun, Qianhua, Azure Fiend, the three young masters of Zio, and all their past lives were vivid in Sumo's mind. AMU's demonic coffin moved about, almost overturning the entire Blackwater. However, after MU fell into the Six Paths, there was no news of him for more than 200 years until the Great Battle of Brahma. Yeah, Sumo let out a long sigh. It was unbearable to recall the past. But how could there be black water in the ancient coin-hidden realm? Sumo spread out her divine sense and followed the black water for thousands of miles. However, there was no end to the black water. This area seemed to extend infinitely. Brother Su, you also recognized the black water? Yu Wuji was surrounded by white sand, making him look like a fairy. Sumo frowned and nodded. First, it was the desolate soul mystic realm, then the black water. Everything about the ancient coin mystic realm was strange. Yi Kansheng, on the other hand, stared blankly at the river. He had never seen black water before, because he had never been to the desolate sea divine region before. However, Yi Kansheng knew that the desolate sea Blackwater, azure river of forgetfulness, and immeasurable floating dust were actually a river. The great river ran through the three realms. It had no beginning and no end. Later on, the three realms became one and became the Milky Way. That river of time had long since ceased to exist. Why was there black water here? Everyone had the same question in their hearts. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji looked at each other and saw deep confusion in each other's eyes. There was no such river in the Milky Way. The shattering of the Star River was a mystery. At present, everything here was also a mystery. Looking at the black water, Sumo was also lost in her thoughts. Brother Yi, miss you. It seems like your deductions are correct. This ancient coin secret realm must have something to do with the three realms. Sumo said in a low voice. You are a desolate sea cultivator? Yu Wuji asked. I want to hide it from you too. My memory isn't complete. I can't remember many things. Sumo smiled bitterly. Just as Miss Yu said, when the time is right, you will naturally know who I am. Oh, hee hee. Yu Wuji laughed and didn't think much of it. The three of them respected each other's secrets. This was the basis of their cooperation. Why did the three realms, or the Milky Way, shatter? Sumo asked with a frown. This question was equivalent to crossing countless memories for him, so Sumo felt that her question was a little strange. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji didn't feel that way, but the two of them shook their heads gently. The Milky Way's apocalypse came from nowhere. Yi Kansheng frowned. Actually, my last memory is also a little blurry. Many things seem to have happened, but they also seem to be illusions. My last memory is of countless black lights devouring everything. The entire Milky Way world seemed to be pulled into a black hole. Then, everything shattered in the black hole. The power of the eternal realm was useless. All your senses were stripped away. Yi Kansheng tried hard to recall everything with a pained expression. All the light has disappeared. The world was overturned. Yu Wuji said with a trembling voice. Whether it was the green light or the white light, they couldn't stop that destruction. That should be a power beyond the Milky Way. It crushed everything. Back then, everything that the Holy Father AMU created was destroyed. The Holy Father AMU. Sumo was stunned. This was because, as far as he could remember, Amu was still a tribulation realm cultivator. He was worlds away from becoming a venerable one. Yes, Yi Kanxing seemed to understand a little of Sumo's confusion. AMU's final realm was definitely that of a supremacy or even higher. The people of the Milky Way called him the god of creation. He erased all karma and left the three realms. He said that the Milky Way would live forever, but erased karma and left the three realms. Sumo smiled coldly. If karma could be erased, why would there be reincarnation? Eternal life? Then why did the Milky Way shatter? Now, Sumo somewhat understood the roar of the red-clothed Mu Jinghong in a frenzied state during the battle at Windwheel Mountain. Who said eternal life? Who lied to us? Eternal life. The direction of the three realms Milky Way was not what AMU had promised. Perhaps there was an unknown change. The Holy Father AMU would never push the three realms to destruction. The supremacies know more about the situation. But now there is no news of him. Yi Kanxing said, who doesn't know who is still alive and who will wake up? Yes. Yu Wuji also said, everyone in the Milky Way believes that the destruction of the Milky Way has nothing to do with the Holy Father AMU. But no one knows why. Sumo listened to the two, smiled coldly, and did not speak. The AMU in her memory was a mortal enemy. Sumo could tell that Yi Kanxing and Yu Wuji admired AMU very much. However, even though they were once eternal realm cultivators, the destruction of the three realms left a deep shadow in their hearts. There was a kind of despair in Yi Kanxing and Yu Wuji's tone. For eternal realm cultivators to remember that kind of despair even after reincarnating, how terrifying was the destruction of the Milky Way back then. One day, the truth will come to light. Sumo said to comfort herself. Let's figure out everything in the secret realm of the ancient money first. Yi Kanxing took a deep breath and nodded heavily. Yu Wuji also went through his own thoughts. They didn't find anything above the black water. But when they crossed the black water, the sky became slightly brighter. This place seemed to be another small space-time. There were green mountains and clear water ahead. This place was very different from the place they had just passed. There is a village ahead, Yi Kanxing said. Sumo and Yu Wuji also discovered the village ahead at this time. The village wasn't big, and there were only a few dozen families scattered around. Their houses were very old, even older than the houses in the Netherworld realm. After seeing this village, Yu Wuji couldn't help but slightly raise her eyebrows. Her gaze fell on a relatively large house in the middle of the village. At this time, the three of them had already arrived outside the village. There wasn't a single person in the ancient village. However, this village gave them a very strange feeling. The tea is fragrant, and the soup is very warm. Yi Kanxing smiled bitterly. It looks like someone just left. Unfortunately, Sumo shook her head and smiled. Unfortunately, this is not the truth. The time in this space has been frozen. Yu Wuji said. It has stopped at a specific moment. Everyone has disappeared. The three of them looked at each other and smiled bitterly. Then, Yu Wuji's gaze fell on the house in the middle of the village. Because there was an ancient signboard on the house. Ordinary people would think that it was a signboard with no words. However, Yu Wuji made a hand seal and wiped her eyes. In her eyes, three ancient words were reflected. Magical Fantasy House. Sure enough, Yu Wuji sighed inwardly. She has been to this village. Chapter 422. In the vast universe, all realms coexisted. Back then, AMU combined the 9 coffins into one and destroyed the karma roulette, making everything perfect and leaving no regrets. Then, he took Xinyan to the immeasurable fairy and left. However, no one knew where AMU went. In the end, the three realms became the Milky Way. After the battle of eternal creation, the three realms were divided and merged into countless stars. After that, no one knew how many years and how much time had passed. AMU became the saint, the god of creation, and a legend. For a certain period of time, the Milky Way was truly eternal. The stars were bright, the river was clear, and the sea was calm. As long as the star was not destroyed, the person would live forever. That was the most glorious time of the Milky Way. There was a star with a village on it. That village was full of mortals. But there was one exception, but they also lived a mortal life. The people in the village did not know anything. The man in black was the demonic sun, and the woman in purple was called Huanhua. They were all peerless venerables. A pair of daughters in red, two ancient ghost bodies, Wang Yu and Shun Ming. The family was happy and harmonious, not caring about time. Occasionally, it would stare blankly at the stars in the sky at night. Would her brothers suddenly come back? Unfortunately, within the Milky Way, there's almost no news of AMU. Yu Wuji had been to this village before. Or rather, Yu Qimu had been to this village before, because she and the Azure Demon lived on the other side of that star. She had been here more than once. The enchanted house was named after Huanhua and the demonic sun. In the eyes of mortals, this was an ordinary house. On the door, there was a nameless black plaque. However, in the eyes of those above the original immortal level, it was a forbidden area. The entire enchanted house had an invincible forbidden map. Wang Zhu's forbidden map was unparalleled in the world and could kill immortals. Even if you were at the 9th level of the Eternal Realm, if you did not have permission, you would also perish outside the old house. The Azure Demon, Yu Qiumu, and Xing Fei were all frequent guests of this old house. Many times they drank and sang. Many times they talked about the past. They were the stories of the universe, the legends of the 3 realms. However, when the Milky Way shattered, she saw Azure Demon and Xing Fei melt in the nameless power with her own eyes, and there was no news about the house of Illusionary Fiend. In fact, in terms of despair, Yu Wuji far surpassed Yi Kanxing, because, in her opinion, the greenish-white light was an invincible existence. One was always calm and unperturbed, while the other could kill anything the light shone on. However, they were unable to stop everything. Who could stop him? At that moment, Yu Qiumu understood that even if all the venerables were present, they would not be able to stop everything. What kind of power was that? Now, why would the magical fantasy mansion appear here? Yu Wuji landed at the door of the Phantom Mansion, but her protective white sand did not dissipate. Then, she gently waved her hand. Creak! The door of the old house opened. Yu Wuji entered through the door without any obstruction. Sumo and Yi Kanxing withdrew their spirit beasts and followed them in. They didn't feel anything wrong. There shouldn't be any forbidden techniques here, Yu Wuji said. Sumo and Yi Kanxing also quietly spread out their divine senses. This house of Illusionary Fiend had a total of 3 courtyards, which could be called a luxurious house in this village. However, the layout was simple. The 3 courtyards were almost identical. Each courtyard had 3 main rooms and 2 side rooms. However, the first courtyard was more like a workshop with many pieces of wood scattered inside, and even a completed coffin. However, it was really an ordinary coffin. Sumo frowned. She knew that AMU used to make coffins. What is this place? Sumo asked. This is the former residence of Demon Boy and Huanhua in the Milky Way world. Yu Wuji answered. Former residence of Demon Boy and Huanhua. Sumo didn't respond, but Yi Kanxing was already surprised. There was always a sky beyond the sky, and a demon above the demon. After the 3 realms became the Milky Way, who didn't know the story of Angel Girl and Demon Boy? More importantly, Demon Boy was the master of the Holy Father, AMU. Demon Boy's status in the Milky Way even surpassed that of other supremacies. However, almost no one knew where they lived in seclusion in the Milky Way world. Why would their former residence appear in the ancient coin realm? Yi Kanxing looked at Yu Wuji blankly. Because those who could go to Demon Boy's former residence were definitely not ordinary people in the 3 realms. Yu Wuji didn't think about anything else. She just wanted to take a closer look at this old residence. The second courtyard of Illusionary Fiend House was planted with many strange flowers and plants. Yu Wuji knew that this was the courtyard of Wang Yu and Shunming back then. At this moment, the strange flowers were in full bloom, and the immortal herbs were emitting a fragrance. Yu Wuji raised an eyebrow and reached out with one hand. She wanted to pick a charm flower in her hand. However, her spiritual power gently glided over the spirit flower, and there was no reaction at all. Yu Wuji was stunned. Could it be that everything in front of her was an illusion? She leaned over and touched it gently with her hand. The charm flower was indeed real. However, she couldn't pick it. At this moment, Sumo also saw that there was an unfinished game of chess on the stone table in the corridor not far away. The black and white pieces were evenly matched. It was impossible to tell the winner from the situation on the chessboard. "Brother Yi, are you in the mood? Let's continue playing." Sumo said. Oh, Yi Qianxing didn't know what Sumo meant. Why was she in the mood to play chess? He followed Sumo to the stone table. Sumo played white first and casually put down a piece. In fact, Sumo's chess skills were absolutely top-notch. Whether it was when Muron of the Grand Wilderness or second senior brother Windwheel, they were all top-notch chess players. However, Sumo's move was almost without any order. Not knowing when to advance or retreat would not help the situation. Yi Qianxing was also stunned when he saw Sumo's move. This move was almost equivalent to giving way. Between experts, the difference of one piece was the deciding factor. On the other hand, Yi Qianxing was quite meticulous in making his move. At this moment, the black side was winning. The corner of Sumo's mouth curled up. Then, she casually put down another piece. That kind of move was clearly made by a person who didn't know how to play chess. Seeing this, Yi Qianxing couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Brother Su, are you going to give up and admit defeat?" As he spoke, Yi Qianxing directly put down a piece. As soon as this black piece was put down, Sumo's white piece was already unable to turn the situation around. It was a dead end. Brother Yi, look again." Sumo smiled and pointed at the chessboard. Something strange happened. Just now, Sumo and Yi Qianxing put down a total of 4 pieces. However, at this moment, the situation on the chessboard was actually exactly the same as before they put down their pieces. The 4 pieces that they put down were long gone. None of the pieces in the chessboard box were missing. Even the way they were placed was not the slightest change. Yi Qianxing was stunned. Everything in this place has been sealed. We don't have the ability to change everything here. No matter how we move, everything will immediately return to its original state. Sumo looked around and said, "Therefore, Miss, you can't remove the charm of Fantasy Flower. We can't change the chess game. Angel, Devil Boy, they really live up to their reputation." Sumo sighed from the bottom of her heart. Although he felt extremely complicated at the mention of Angel Girl Fantasy Flower, he had to admit that everything in this Phantom Mansion was not ordinary. If it wasn't for Yu Wuji, Sumo wouldn't have dared to come in so easily. If there was a killing array here, the 3 of them would probably be killed in seconds. However, Sumo had already guessed that Yu Wuji was Yu Qiamu. Of course, Azure Demon's Woman wouldn't have an accident in the old mansion of Devil Boy and Fantasy Flower. Could it be that this is the forbidden time? Yu Wuji frowned slightly. Time imprisonment. That's the supreme secret technique of the Holy Father Amu. Chapter 423. The Restriction of Time. Sumo's eyes narrowed. Because the Supreme Emperor of Taiwan had died under Amu's instant and eternity. That was also a type of restriction of time. "Miss Yu, are you sure this is the restriction of time?" Yi Qianxing asked. However, Yu Wuji shook her head lightly. "How could I possibly understand a holy venerates technique? I'm just guessing. Otherwise, we can't explain the situation in front of us." Sumo and Yi Qianxing smiled bitterly. At this time, they had arrived at the 3rd courtyard. Yu Wuji remembered that this last courtyard was where Mo Lang and Huan Hua usually lived. But now, everything had retained its original appearance. There were ancient trees, stone tables, and stone benches. Only in the middle of the courtyard, there was an additional purple pond, shimmering with light. However, none of the 3 of them could see through what it was. It was also Yu Wuji's first time seeing the purple pond. She remembered that this place had been flat before, and there was nothing there. She tried to throw a few grains of white sand into the purple pond. The white sand sank into the pond, but could still be seen clearly. It seemed that the purple pond was only an illusory existence. Sumo and Yi Kansheng could see it clearly from the side, and they couldn't help but frown. They had scanned the entire third courtyard with their divine senses. There was a stone table in a corridor. However, what was placed on it was not a chessboard, but a wine pot and wine cups. A wine pot and 2 half bowls of wine. The fragrance of the wine wafted through the air, refreshing the mind. With a thought, Sumo used her telekinesis to lift the wine pot and filled the half bowls of wine to the brim. However, as soon as he put down the wine pot, the half-filled bowl of wine returned to its original state. Tisk tisk. Sumo shook her head. With his current realm, he couldn't understand this at all. Just what kind of profound technique was this? Holy Father AMU. Sumo took a deep breath. If all of this was done by AMU, then he really didn't know what kind of heights AMU had reached in the end. Time imprisonment. To Sumo, this was simply inconceivable. The three of them went around the magical fantasy mansion, but apart from the purple pool that they couldn't understand, there was nothing else they could do. They didn't find anything. Thus, the three of them could only go back the way they came and leave the house. The situation in the other parts of the village was almost the same. Everything was confined to a specific moment. Yu Wuji was puzzled. There wasn't even the slightest trace of a fight. This was different from the situation she and Qing Mozi had encountered in the past. That day, when a mysterious power attacked, Azure Demon and Xing Fei fought. Had Mo Lang and Huan Hua disappeared without a trace? There were also Wang Yu and Shun Ming, who had ancient ghost bodies. Any one of these 4 people could shake the galaxy. How could he disappear so quietly? Yu Wuji couldn't believe it. However, she didn't have a reasonable explanation. After all, the galaxy of the 3 realms had been broken. Everyone couldn't be found. She didn't even know where Azure Demon was, let alone anything else. At the edge of the ancient village, Sumo, Yi Kansheng, and Yu Wuji, the 3 reincarnators from the 3 realms, floated in the air and looked at the ancient village in silence. After a while, Sumo frowned and finally spoke. I have a speculation. Yes. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji responded at the same time. Let's hear it. Could this ancient coin secret land be formed by the fragments of the 3 realms? Sumo said surprisingly. Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji were both stunned. They really hadn't thought about this. The galaxy was broken, but there were some relatively intact fragments. They passed through time and space and fell here, forming the ancient coin secret land. Sumo said, it's possible that not only the ancient coin secret land, but the entire 9 secluded secret land is formed by the fragments of the 3 realms. 9 secluded secret land. The fragments of the 3 realms. Sumo's speculation was quite bold, which shocked Yi Kansheng and Yu Wuji. The galaxy was broken, but it doesn't mean it's completely dead. In the vast universe, there's still its aura. In the Yizong world, there are many fragments related to it. Sumo took a deep breath. Strictly speaking, we are also fragments of the 3 realms, aren't we? Everything from the Milky Way is a part of it. Broken, all fragments, Yi Kansheng said slowly. The galaxy was broken, but it doesn't mean it's completely dead. The galaxy was broken, but it doesn't mean it's completely dead. Yu Wuji muttered to himself. If Sumo's speculation was correct, it meant that many people, many things, and many things might still exist. It's just that they might exist in a different form, or they might be preserved in their original form. For example, the village in front of them. First, there was the desolate soul secret land, then the black water, and finally the ancient village in front of them. Sumo thought about all the possibilities and felt that his speculation was correct. Everything here was formed by the fragments of the 3 realms. Brother Su, if it's as you said, then who integrated these fragments into a space? This secret land couldn't have been formed naturally during the Great Shattering. Yi Kansheng asked, Holy Father AMU. Yi Kansheng gave an answer. AMU again. Sumo smiled bitterly in his heart. He was extremely eager to recover all his memories. He wanted to see what happened after that. The title of God of Creation wasn't something that just anyone could take on. I keep feeling that it wasn't Holy Father Amu, Yu Wuji said. Then who was it? Yi Kanshing asked. Holy Lotus, Yu Wuji said slowly. Ancient Holy Lotus Li Shui? Sumo frowned. Li Shui also became a venerable? Yu Wuji shook his head. I don't know if the Holy Lotus became a venerable. However, I know that the Holy Lotus had an extraordinary origin. I heard that during the Demon Sealing War, it was Li Shui who transformed into his three-eyed form and used an unknown power to subdue the demonic realm remnant flower. Most importantly, Li Shui left the three realms after this war, and he came to hide. Back then, during the Demon Sealing War, Yi Kanshing wasn't present. Sumo hadn't recovered all of his memories. And the reason why Yu Wuji knew about it was because of Green Devil. These words made Su Mo and Yi Sanxing's hearts tremble again. Yi Kanshing asked, he came to Yizong World? Yu Wuji nodded. Perhaps, to be precise, the Holy Lotus didn't come to Yizong World, but returned to Yizong World. The ancient Holy Lotus was originally from Yizong World. For him, the three realms was just a journey. Yi Kanshing sucked in a breath of cold air. Traveling was one of the ways for cultivators to cultivate. However, this was the first time he heard of someone using an entire world as a place to cultivate. That was really a big deal. However, Sumo remained silent after hearing this. He felt that it wasn't Li Shui, because he had seen Li Beihan in the Netherworld realm. His temperament was exactly the same as Li Shui's. Sumo understood. His surname was Li, and his name was Beihan, and he had given her a lotus jade pendant. Sumo didn't know how much time she had spent in the cycle of reincarnation. However, Li Beihan was definitely a descendant of the Holy Lotus. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.